when we learned this sport, like I remember I did jiu-jitsu for a few months and I thought I was a badass. That's the delusion. But we go to the MMA gym and this guy's I'm on the ground and I'm putting them in the same position as jiu-jitsu, but this time punching is allowed, and he just keeps on hitting me in the face. It's like, this is not what we learned. This is not fun. And you start to realize you have to modify it in certain terms, and you have to train that. Like, if you've never been punched before, that's an experience to behold. Like, the second you get punched in the face, everything you've learned goes out the window. And then you get punched again,
humble የሆንክ ትሄዳለህ humble የሆንክ ትሄዳለህ
you'll be humble and you'll be more aware of the things that you don't know and the things that could happen to you. Somebody is armed or has a weapon, you have to have really good cardio la rucha. Like, you're not gonna, like, your jiu-jitsu is not gonna, if I get stabbed, I'll die like everybody else. If bcobblestone kwala bfanakuting, I'll fall like everybody else.
It's not an idea. He's not giving you ideas. He's just telling you.
Challenge like.
Oh, I don't.
Communism that channel like so much. Guys, this is an advice that I give for most people. Don't bring your girlfriends. Challenge in there.
No, they have. I have seen a few videos where I have heard a female voice kajarba. Yeah,
this is interesting.
Oh my god,
that's not something you want her to see.
I know.
Like, she wants to feel safe when she's with you, and if she sees you, like, you know,
tapping out in 5 minutes.
Not just tapping out. It's not just not 5. Nobody lasts 5 minutes.
Really?
Like,
maximum 3 minutes ka 37 seconds. I did.
Yeah.
Really?
And that's because we let them. Like, if you hear the videos and not the audio, you can hear my coach going, make him last a little long. He has a potential to join us. Some guys don't, like, he's bored. He doesn't like it because people just call come and classachon disrupt yaragwal. So, like, just finish it quickly. And then you can see the video where I just switch and I just immediately choke him out. We get to decide how long the fight lasts.
Welcome to NETSANET PODCAST Kumneger section. Today we have joining with us who is a jiu-jitsu athlete. So, introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. Johnny Balalo. I'm one of the few jiu-jitsu athletes that Ethiopia has. There's like 5 of us and
really?
A lot of hobbyists. So happy to be here spreading the word of our sport. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this conversation goes.
Okay. So I want to know, what's the difference between somebody who takes it as a hobby and an athlete?
Well, people that are athletes have no life. Like, we basically dedicate every waking moment of our lives, at least until we reach a certain point, just learning and trying to get better at it. Because jiu-jitsu በጣም ከባድ የሆነ ስፖርት ነው። ከነጭ ወደ black belt ለመሄድ ወደ 10 ዓመት በላይ ሊወስድ ይችላል ሆቢስት ከሆናችሁ። So there's, the more you learn, the more you find out there's a lot of information out there. በጣም እኛ የማናውቀው በጣም, like, I'm a blue belt right now, and I'm already confident enough to challenge all of Ethiopia for like 50K. Like, come get this money from me. And imagine what a black belt can do. Like, a blue belt is basically, there's white, blue, purple, brown, and then black. So it's like one step above white, which is an advanced beginner or something like that. Again, it's so hard to do, and you're going to fail so many times. And because you see how good everyone else out there is, you have to obsess over it. Like, when I'm not training at the gym, we train 8 hours a day. And when we're not training at the gym, 8 hours a day, every day. And when it's 365 days a year. And when we're not training there, I'm spending my time watching instructionals and whatnot, or doing solo drills, or when we're watching instructionals, like, just breaking the arm or the choke. Yeah, 12 ሰዓት course አለ.
Just breaking the arm.
Just breaking the arm.
Just breaking the arm.
There's like 12 hours of how to do it, and you have to be able to do it to different body types. አሁን አነስ ያለች ሴት ከሷ ሳይዝ እኩል ከሆነ ሰው ጋር ፋይት በምታረግ ሰዓት, the same techniques that work on that person is not going to work on someone that's twice her size. And that means she has to practice እና ሰዓቱን ማስገባት አለባት የተለያዩ ሰዎችና የተለያዩ body type ላይ እንዴት ነው ይህን ቴክኒክ modify አድርጌ apply ማድረገው, so that when you actually do need it, እንደ አዲስ ነገር ማሰብ የለብሽም። አሁን እዚህ ጋር ያለሁት ምን ላድርግ የሚል ነገር የለም. It has to be automatic. And if you have to think about it, you haven't mastered it ማለት ነው. And I like obsessing over things and specializing over certain things. So focus on training and trying to be the best in Africa at least. But in Nishu, because we don't have a lot of support. There's literally one school in the country, and the students from there, they're trying to start our own movements, but there's no competition for us. In order for me to find a fight that's fair, I have to go to other countries, because if you've beat everyone here, now it just becomes like since white belt I've won all my tournaments, and now it's getting easier and easier, and because nobody's training as hard as we are. It's getting boring, and now we have to go to other countries. And as a hobbyist, you're not training to be a world champion or so. You just like it as a sport. It's a really good way to get fit. It teaches you problem solving. If you have a stressful life, it gives you that few hours በቀን ውስጥ ስለሌላ ነገር ማታስቡበት ጂም ውስጥ ገብታችሁ if someone's trying to choke you out for 2 hours and you're learning new techniques that are interesting, you're not thinking about whatever personal problems you might have. You're thinking about surviving that. ከወጣሽ በኋላ you might be thinking about it, trying to improve. I've seen some hobbyists that are really good. Like they've got work, they've got marriage lives, and they still beat up some of the guys that do it full time. Like it's all about your own personal goals. Hobbyists, again, you don't have to beat up everyone. But when I lifted weights for a very long time, and one thing I learned from like activities like that is it's fun and it's good for your body. It keeps it healthy. Again, it doesn't have that continuous growth. On jiu-jitsu study, በመጀመሪያ ሳምንትሽ የነበርሽው ያለሽ ማንነትና ከሁለት ሳምንት በኋላ ያለሽ ማንነት is completely different.
Mentally or physically?
No, both. Like you've learned some new things. Like you've been humbled a few times, and you've seen what can be done, and you've seen yet in the message. Say for instance, you're on top of someone, you're about to do something, and they sweep you. And now you start to understand, oh, this is base, this is እንደዚህ like ከአንድ ሰው ለማምለጥ እንደዚህ አይነት ነገሮች ማድረግ አለብኝ አንድ ሰው ከያዘኝ. As a woman, you'll know how to break grips against stronger opponents. So አንድ ሰው ይዞሽ ሌላ ቦታ ሊወስድሽ ከሞከረ እንዴት ማስለቀቅ እንደምትችይ ብዙ ጉልበት ሳትጠቀሚም እና ደግሞ ነገሮችን ኤስኬሌት ሳታደርጊ ራስሽን መከላከል የምትችይባቸው መንገዶች at least initially introduce ትደረጋለሽ. And there's a pathway for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. You're not going to stop it. We have guys in our gym that are like 60 years old, hobbyists. And they come in and they fight against 20-year-olds and everything. And sometimes they do really well. You feel that old man strength. And we have like guys from different walks of life. You see millionaires and engineers and architects training with students. And a guy that's failing maths is choking them out. Like in high school. And it's a place where for young people, they get to meet and interact with adults. And it doesn't matter what background you have when you're in that gym. And it's a room what I think is like where like-minded individuals come and interact effortlessly. Tumarut Nagar is mostly the first thing you learn is humility. As a hobbyist, most guys have this delusion where they think just because they see red or just because they get angry, they're going to do something. That couldn't be further from the truth. Like the angrier you get, if you see professional UFC fighters, the more emotional they get, the more they lose the fight because they're not thinking. Fighting is an art form. If you're driving angry, the chance of you getting into accident just drastically jumral. Fighting is the same thing. You have to be calm and resolved, and whenever you're emotional, you have to use that emotion to your advantage, or that's when you lose. That's where you get tired. And it takes a lot of practice. But ambuzu naturally የምናረጋቸው ነገሮች አሉ. Our natural instincts. We have to unlearn all of them. Like I remember when I started doing MMA, these guys were...
What's MMA?
So it's mixed martial arts. It's like grappling, but you get punched in the face. And
the more dangerous he becomes, the more we interview him.
So the thing is, when we learned this sport, like I remember I did jiu-jitsu for a few months, and I thought I was a badass. That's the delusion. But we go to the MMA gym and this guy's I'm on the ground and I'm putting them in the same position as jiu-jitsu, but this time punching is allowed, and he just keeps on hitting me in the face. Like, this is not what we learned. This is not fun. And you start to realize you have to modify it in certain terms, and you have to train that. Like if you've never been punched before, that's an experience to behold. Like the second you get punched in the face, everything you've learned goes out the window, and then you get punched again.
humble የሆንክ ትሄዳለህ humble የሆንክ ትሄዳለህ
you'll be humble and you'll be more aware of the things that you don't know and the things that could happen to you like you that's a really good experience for even for jiu-jitsu guys that I think should experience jiu-jitsu ሌላ martial arts ሸርቶ ማያውቁ they have this false delusion that just jiu-jitsu is enough no you have to be well-rounded if somebody is armed or has a weapon you have to have really good cardio la rucha like you're not going to like your jiu-jitsu is not going to if I get stabbed I'll die like everybody else if በኮብልስቶን ኳላ በፈነክቱኝ I'll fall like everybody else
it's not an idea he's not giving you ideas he's just telling you
challenge ላይ
አደራ
ኮብሊዞ መምጣት ይችላል ያሉኝ ሰዎች አሉ it's but the thing is this like there's a reason why most trained people if they're really good at it they don't get into street fights and you train ስታደርጉ ለself defense martial arts you're not training against professionals ለነሱ አይደለም የምትዘጋጁት ትሬኒንግ የሌላቸው ሰዎች ናቸው ትሬኒንግ ያላቸው ሰዎች they know just how easily things can go violent and we live in a society where you could get sued በቀላሉ if I punch you in the face you fall to the ground most of urban cities asphalt nacho the back of your head መሬት ይመታል and now you might pass away or you have brain bleed or brain damage and now like I'm in prison for 50 years over something that I could have just walked away from and that's going to eat at you for the rest of your life and I don't have to experience that but also experience I can but when you know that you feel safe like I remember when I was lifting jimus bemgaba saat I was okay for my age but I see bigger guys and I get intimidated and every guy ሁሉም ወንዶች እርስ በርስ በሚገናኙ ሰዓት in the back of their head there's a small inkling of thought where they like can I take this guy የሚል ነገር
really is that true
that's true
አንድ ሌላ የወንድ ሪፕሬዘንታቲቭ እውነት ነው ይሄ ነገር
that's even if they're
true ያ የጂጂትሱ ሳይሆን like ወንድ ስታይ በደባደባ አሸንፋለሁ የሚለው ሐሳብ አለ no እሱም ጥሩ ነው አይ ላንተ ጥሩ ነው እሺ
he's gatekeeping the secrets but it might not be true for most guys for all guys but I talk to a lot of men and they tell me the same thing even if they've never trained I was literally having this conversation with a friend of mine and they think that like there's a reason why men don't in public at least they're not disrespectful to each other because there's an underlying threat of violence we start getting into arguments that doesn't work it's going to go into physical altercation you're not going to go around trying to act like a tough guy in front of everyone when you go to gyms people think those guys are meatheads but these are like the nicest people you'll meet they'll eat their weight in line and everything because they know they're surrounded by people that can do them harm jiu-jitsu class you're surrounded by guys that can kill you 10 times in 5 minutes like so you're going to be on your best behavior I don't care how you act outside of the gym and I see guys that like online some of the guys that do challenges they talk smack they act like tough guys over the text and then they come in and they're super polite and most of the time they see like 6 or 7 challengers band kan imetuna I fight them back to back so it's like they see the guys that came before them like in a 10 seconds tap ተደርጎ ሲወጡ and everything and then immediately they go video ይቅር like ብሩን አንፈልገውም like I've had professionals that actually have said that like people that judo background ያላቸው ሰዎች ምናምን አይ እንትኑ ይቅር I just want to test myself ብለው ይመጣሉ because this is new in Ethiopia most of the professional martial artists bodybuilders if you see some of my challenge videos they don't accept it because one they don't know what would happen and most of them people actually have complaints about me where they think I'm picking the fights I just leave my number people call me and they come but the people that come are like high school tamari ምናምን አይነት ነገሮች ናቸው they're super skinny like 60 kilograms and they have this delusion I think some of them ደግሞ ቀጠሮ አድርገው ነው የሚመጡት በቃ 50 ሺህ የመጣው like ጠብቁኝ ዛሬ ትጋብዛላችሁ and then they come in and it's like in 5 seconds they get choked out and they just go and guys this is an advice that I give for most people don't bring your girlfriends challenge you in there
no I have seen a few videos where I have heard a female voice ከጀርባ
this is interesting
my god
that's not something you want her to see
I know
like she wants to feel safe when she's with you and if she sees you like
tapping out in 5 minutes
not just tapping out it's not just not 5 nobody lasts 5 minutes
really
like maximum 3 minutes ka 37 seconds I don't know
really?
And that's because we let them like if you hear the videos and not the audio you can hear my coach going Yeah, make him last a little long. He has a potential to join us. Some guys don't like he's bored. He doesn't like it because people just call come and classaችን disrupt ያደርገዋል. So like just finish it quickly. And then you can see the video where I just switch and I just immediately choke him out. We get to decide how long the fight lasts. Nobody can we can do so many things that I'm not doing. Like I'm saying stand up game በምንጀምር ሰዓት I'm supposed to take them down. But training የሌለው ሰው መውደቅ አይችልም. People are good at falling ወደፊት ግን ወደ ኋላ መውደቅ አይችሉም. There's a technique, it's called break falling. So ወደ ኋላ በምትወቂ ሰዓት you have to protect the back of your head. You have to distribute the force መሬት ላይ like you have to hit the ground so the force gets distributed so that it doesn't just focus on your spine. So when these challenges come, because I know that I'm not just going to pick them up and slam them on the ground. I do that to my training partners because it doesn't hurt them. But if I do this to these guys, just the fall alone, like መሬት ላይ በምጥላቸው ሰዓት እጃቸውን ቤዝ ሊያደርጉ ይችላሉ እንዳይጎዱ. And that alone could just, the body weight of 2 grown men እጅሽ ላይ ሲወድቅ is a clean break. So I have to do it in a very slow way where it takes like 60 seconds just to take them down.
ቀስ ብዬ ላስተኛችሁ ላይ ነው.
Exactly. It's foreplay.
Yeah, essentially.
But it's entertaining for the people to see. I see some of the comments where they go, oh, this guy በጣም አስቸግሮሃል ምናምን ነገር. And it's, bro,
there's this movie does አሳይሻለሁ where he puts his leg behind their ጭንቅላት ማለት so that በሰላም እንዲያንቃቸው ስልሽ ደግሞ I mean አንደኛ when he strangles the bell there's no other word out for it በስነ ስርዓት እንዲሆን አንድ እግሩን ከጭንቅላታቸው ጀርባ ነው የሚያስገባው ማለት ነው. To be that flexible, Rasu, I have so many questions. The level of training you have to take to be able to put your knees and there's a tatful behind an opponent's head. I can't.
Well, the good thing is flexibility. በቀላሉ gain የሚደረግ ችሎታ ነው. Strength is much harder to acquire. Like 2 weeks of training, you'll be way more flexible than you did if you just avoid the pain of like stretching. People don't like stretching. They forget how to breathe when they're doing it. Like I was 96 kilograms. Imagine for my height, I was super overweight when I joined jiu-jitsu. And in 2 months, I ended up being 75. 2 to 3 months. And yeah, weight loss wasn't even part of my game plan. Like losing weight wasn't my priority.
Oh, no. They're training?
Okay, I have a question. Yeah. Does jiu-jitsu help with weight loss? Like as a sport, not just for you?
It does, but here's the thing. You don't think about weight loss. You think about getting good at the sport. So when you're lifting weights, you do all that work, and then the next morning you have to do it again, and you stand in front of the mirror, but you're still the same. Like you're like, something should have changed. But when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're like, oh, I want to beat this guy in a few weeks. And then you're practicing. But the work you do, indirectly, as a byproduct, even if you don't lose weight, you feel yourself being more athletic. You feel yourself being faster, more agile. And everyone will beat the hell out of you. And then አንድ ወር ላይ እንደናንተ አዲስ ሰው ሲመጣ ታያላችሁ. እስቲ ና ብላችሁ ወደ ጥግ ተወስዱትና now he becomes, this is why new beginners are like the bloodline of the sport, because you're going to be at the bottom of the hierarchy አዲስ ሰው እስኪመጣ ድረስ. And you're going to get your ass kicked every single day because አዲስ ሰው ሲመጣ you see that and you see ተማርሹ ነገር ውጤቱን ታያለሽ. And you're like, oh, and then 6 months down the line ደግሞ ምትሆኛለሽ. And then a year down the line. And the more you get good at it, the more you love it. The more you'll spend more time doing it. I've seen guys with jobs and everything where they're like, they sneak out of their job just to like get 2 hours of jiu-jitsu, or like they have their wife waiting at the house and like ሁለት ሰዓት ምናምን after class ሮል እያሉ ክላስ እኮ አልቋል and እስከ ምሽቱ 3 ሰዓት 4 ሰዓት የፎቁ ባለቤቶች ኧረ ቁልፍ አምጡ ምናምን እስክንባል ድረስ we have to get kicked out. Yes. That's how addictive it is.
Yeah.
Because one, you can practice it safely and you can do it for a very long time and it works. That's the thing. Like most people will, I'm sorry, some striking sports, pad work, yasmatush, they give you a false illusion of you being good. Now, Muay Thai works, kickboxing works, they're all legit martial arts. But some coaches will just bring you to the gym and like they make you hit the pads in front of the camera, it looks good. You feel a false sense of confidence. And then when you get punched in the face, that's different. Because there's a difference between hitting pads and then like being tuned to movement, having like when I started MMA, so my initial instinct was to look away. The hand is hitting me, I have to avoid it, or I try to grab it, and that just gives them more angle and more opportunities to beat me up. And then you have to like cover your face and get used to the idea of getting hit and then looking focusing at it. Or the most, even if the guy hits you, you could just finish a few centimeters ወደ ኋላ በማለት decrease the power of the punch. But it takes a lot of killing your natural instincts እሱን ለማድረግ. And it takes practice, but when you get good at it, like I'm a huge believer in like anything worth doing is worth doing badly at first. You're going to suck. If you were good, you wouldn't be going to the school to train that. And it's true that like I have my arm almost broken a lot of times. I've been choked out so many times, but because of that now I'm impossible to choke out. But because of that it's impossible to get my arm. But if I've never had that pressure added to it, I'm never going to learn how to escape. Like triangle choke ዛሬ ከተደረኩና አንድ ተማሪ ካነቀኝ I'm going to go home, research the escape all night long and put myself in that position. And then 40 ጊዜ choke ሊያደርገኝ ይችላል. But I'll get used to drowning in that like uncomfortably on a territory used. And then over and over and over again I get really good at escaping. And then sometimes I'll even put people in a dominant position. They think they're winning, but 5 seconds later like I'm in a position where I can break their legs or something. And they just tap, you let go, you reset. Like jiu-jitsu, you practice as close as it gets to real violence with someone with 100% aggression attack እያደረገሽ and you see what type of reactions they do and how to think in that situation. And እጁን ትይዣለሽ ታፕ ያደርጋል ትለቂዋለሽ, but you know you can break it እዛ ጋር ስለደረስሽ ማለት ነው. And most people are worried about getting injured. There's a strict rule where you have to respect the tap. If you tap and somebody doesn't let go, they get kicked out of the gym. It's automatic because you're trusting me with your life and I'm trusting you with mine. So this is why jiu-jitsu like have a very tight-knit community. Some people quit the sport, event በሚጣል ሰዓት they'll still come because they love the community so much. Like they always get to like, you know, grab beer after classes out, or when somebody has an event or somebody gets injured, somebody gets sick. It's the community that makes you stay, but the sport is why you enter the door. You know, Sophie Expo የሚባል ዝግጅት ነበረ. I think it's a bodybuilder called Sophonias who prepared it, and we were just invited. I didn't sleep for 24 hours that night. I had ended up celebrating something with my friends. We were out, and then the next morning I just woke up, put on my rash guard, and went there. And not a single fat person in sight. Everyone there is fit, athletic bodybuilders, calisthenics athletes, guys that can do like 1-arm pull-ups and stuff. And I took on 30 guys.
Yet no? Yet no?
I think it's around Summit. This was like an expo for bodybuilders and fitness guys.
Is it happening again?
I'm not sure, but what they do is they bring all these athletes from different works, from different groups, and they make them compete in like deadlifting competitions, arm wrestling, and people that are in different physical activities get to promote their sport.
How have we never heard about this? Did you know this?
I have heard. It was the TikToker, right?
Yeah, like a Rasta bodybuilder. Yeah.
Really?
You haven't?
I have not.
Yeah, it was exciting.
It was fun.
Yes.
And people were shocked to see that, like, you see videos of like this huge guy that just shocked everyone by how much he could lift, goes up against me. 5 seconds later I'm like on the ground and I'm about to break his hand, and I was super overweight back then. Like you can see my love handles slapping him in the face and stuff. Like, but that goes to show that lifting is really important for the human body. Like it gives you stronger bones and stuff. But that doesn't make you tough. It makes you hard to break. But I always say the only difference between a guy that doesn't lift and the guy that lifts is 20 seconds. His lifting athleticism will make him last 20 seconds longer than the guy that doesn't lift, but they all go out the same way. Like if I don't care how strong you are, if I cut off blood flow from going to your brain, then
you're not gonna
you're gonna sleep. And it takes 10 seconds to 5 seconds to do that. So
good night to bed, because that's it.
And here's the thing. In Ethiopia, there's this movement of fake martial artists. That's what we're known for. And they're really good martial artists. But the fake ones overshadow, because people want to take credit for being a representative of a certain sport without actually doing the work. And you see that by, like, all you got to do is, like, does this guy have fights out there that we can see? If he doesn't, then he's not a fighter. He just wants to take credit, wants to get the money and everything. Like Ethiopian martial artists have a really bad reputation through and through. So what we're trying to do is we brought አንገታችንን ደፍተን ነው ለአንድ ዓመት 2 ዓመት training all day long, and we don't want to talk about any of this. But as soon as we felt like we had the confidence to take anyone, we were like, bring it on. And people enjoy this stuff, and Ethiopians are actually brave when it comes to this type of stuff. They just need to be exposed to it, because I see some guys that are 50 kilograms and I put pressure on them in a way where, like, most bigger guys would tap immediately just from the pressure, and these guys don't give in. and they stick to it, and I like 2 years down the line they're now putting me in danger. And this guy, if you look, I can show you pictures of the guys. They're super small. መንገድ ላይ ብታገኛቸው ታክሲ ላይ ተሰልፈው, you wouldn't know that guy would know how to fight. And that's also why most martial artists don't fight, because they see in their gyms the most unexpected guys are the most dangerous guys gym ውስጥ. So they think like መንገድ ላይ ማንንም ሰው ባገኝ, he could probably destroy me and I don't know what he knows. I don't know why. Like there's a certain type of mystery, especially jiu-jitsu guys. Look at me. Like I don't look like I know how to fight. You probably would ask me to fix your, whatever computer issue that you might have. I'm gonna leave it there. Like,
I'm gonna tell you a story that really happened. Now please don't judge me. Remember our mutual friend Rufael? Art exhibition አቅርቦ ነበርና you were there.
Oh yeah.
So his የሩፋኤል ወንድም ካጠገቤ ነበርና he's the scariest man there ብሎ አንተ ጋር ጠቆመ ማለት ነው. I looked at you and was like, are you sure? Sorry, I did not know.
I would say the same thing.
Yeah, are you sure? But he seems adorable. Like, what do you mean?
The glasses are like...
Exactly. And I was genuinely like, are you sure? And he was like, oh yes. Like, he does jiu-jitsu. I'm like, okay, that's nice. And here we are today.
Like, people, this is one thing I like about jiu-jitsu, where it gives you a variety of it gives you a variety of actions that you can take depending on what type. Not every self-defense situation is the same, right? Like ለስፖርት ትሬን የሚያደርጉ ሰዎች አሉ፣ ለሰልፍ ዲፌንስ ትሬን የሚያደርጉ ሰዎች አሉ። and ስፖርት ውስጥ የምትማሩትን ነገር በትንሽ ሞዲፋይ ማድረግ መቻል አለባችሁ ሰልፍ ዲፌንስ ላይ ራሳችሁን ለመከላከል። Say that like you're a boxer. You're not going to punch someone on the streets. The human hand is not made to punch people. Mike Tyson, one of the best fighters in the world, in one of his famous street fights, punched someone and broke his hand immediately. If that happens to him, it's definitely going to happen to you. So what happens is that you have to learn how to modify it and apply it and actually take the time to practice those skills. Like in jiu-jitsu, say that you're like at your brother's wedding and somebody gets out of hand and he gets drunk. You're not going to go to the most severe forms of like, eye gouging, fish hooking. You're going to try to de-escalate the situation, control him. And in a one-on-one unarmed situation, there's a safer way of doing things. But there are times where you stop caring about the well-being of the guy you're fighting. And it's just survival. And for that as well, you can do devastating damage to the guy. So you can either control the dude, or you could cripple him for life, or you can end someone's life with a stranglehold. So like if you're a Muay Thai fighter, which works efficiently, like I would also recommend that people learn it.
What's the difference?
Muay Thai is striking, jiu-jitsu is grappling. So striking is like punch, elbow, sinzare ያለበት sport. Jiu-jitsu is like I get my hand on you, I put you on the ground, and then one-on-one corner, there's a 4-step system. Close distance, take someone down, go to a hierarchy of pins, and then submit them. With Muay Thai, there is no controlled way of fighting someone. He will have to beat the crap out of you with elbows and whatnot, and it causes real damage, and it's effective. But you're not going to want to hurt everyone like that. There are ways that you can, like if there's no, the first thing in self-defense is, I'm safe. And if I'm safe, can I make sure that he's safe as well? And if you can do that, that's a win-win situation. But if that goes out the window, then you can, like most people think, why would I do jiu-jitsu self-defense? Why would I go to the ground? Like if I'm in a club or something, he might have friends. It's called a melee situation where like there's one versus multiple people and you're fighting this guy, but you see it some bystanders on the side. You don't know if they're going to join. So you have to be able to like use your skills in a modified manner. You're not going to go to the ground in that situation. That's very bad. But the thing that grappling offers you is takedowns. Takedowns with low amplitudes. That means you can drop someone kasbilachu. And you can drop someone so hard. I call it like hitting the guy with the earth. Like you can, you could do things even if you're small. I don't care how small you are. There are certain takedowns that you can do for self-defense where you are in control of the situation. If you're with your wife, with your daughter, with your mother, running might not be an option. She might not be as fast as you, depending on if you like them or not.
Good point, Zaga.
But if the situation calls for it, you can choose to do it in a safe manner, and you can ruin the guy's life. Or, I'm not saying do it, but like you could do severe damage to the whoever that might come. That's why we think that Ethiopia ውስጥ የለም ብያቸዋለሁ. So most people don't know that they can do this. But women can use this to protect themselves against much larger opponents, because one thing that jiu-jitsu does for you is that nobody knows what it is. So you have the element of surprise. If a guy is in a position where he can brutally sexually assault you, there are moves that we drill on a regular basis from that position where you can potentially choke the guy out, break his hand, or throw him away and just walk away from those positions. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And I was explaining it to him earlier, like it's like swimming. Yeah, in a big pool where it's really deep, you might be able to survive and your swimming will definitely help you. But if you get thrown into like Abai and you're about to go down the waterfall, I don't care how good of a swimmer you are, you're still going to get hurt. But that doesn't mean that not knowing how to swim is not useful. Like knowing how to swim is useful. Like if you don't know how to swim, you're still going to drown and die. So for those situations, you have to be able to know what you're doing and not guess yourself. And there's a confidence that comes from it. Like I remember I used to think I was a tough guy. Like, I always get humbled by different things, different people I meet through this life. And every time, whenever I think I'm a tough guy, 3 weeks later, I see a guy that's, been in the military for 20 years who's killed a bunch of people. And I'm like, oh,
never mind.
I'm a pony next to you. Like, and then I just go, it's things like this that you have to have a certain type of humility when it comes to self-defense, where you know that things can go from a simple, back and forth supermarket to extreme violence. And it just happens like this. So you have to know that you should avoid that at all costs. But if it comes to survival situation where you don't have an option of what to do, then you have to have the skills and you have to have enough time where you practice them, where you know what to do. And I think that jiu-jitsu is one of the only sports that delivers at this. And we've seen this being demonstrated in are you guys familiar with UFC? So the UFC is the Ultimate Fighting Championships. But what's interesting is that the first UFC ever, which was I think in the 1990s that happened, where at that point nobody knew የትኛው martial art ነው ለself defense ወይ ደግሞ የትኛው martial art ከየትኛው martial art ይበልጣል የሚለውን ማንም አያውቅም. You used to watch Steven Seagal making movies about Aikido. You see like guys like Jackie Chan representing Chinese martial arts, and all these people made badass movies, and everybody thought all of the martial arts were. If somebody was a martial artist and he starts doing this goofy stance, you would think he's going to mess you up.
Better safe than...
Yeah. And then UFC 1 put that to test. And it's actually one of the most revolutionary moments in combat sports. UFC 1, they invited everyone from sumo wrestlers, kickboxers, wrestlers, jiu-jitsu guys. Everybody came. They wanted to see who fights who. There was no rounds. It's just two guys go into the ring. They fight. Whoever one comes out, comes out. It was brutal. It was violent. It wasn't even allowed on TV. And this guy by the name of Royce Gracie just walked in, super skinny dude, wore his gi, Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert, just choked everyone out. And they told him, why do you do jiu-jitsu? He's like, I don't like getting hit. You can take the guy to the ground before he hits you. And this is why you take someone to the ground. If Olympics was betam explosive የሆነ sport ካያችሁ, it's like the javelin throw, right? The guy runs, jogs, sprints, and then he just throws the javelin like 80 meters away. And it requires his entire body working synergetically, like በደንብ እንዲወረውረው. When he does that, he creates tremendous force. Now, if you told that same guy to do that on his knees, he can't generate that same type of power. Say that there's a guy that's 2 meters tall and 100 kilograms, ከ100 በላይ ኪሎግራም የሆነ ሰውዬ, and you've been doing boxing for 10 years, but you're like short as hell, and he's bigger than you. You can punch him 10 times, and he can punch you once. The power he'll be able to generate, just simply the size mat, the body mechanics won't allow it. But with grappling, when I take him on the ground, that his ability to create that explosive power disappears, because he needs to be on his feet. The power comes from your legs to be able to punch someone. You put him on the ground, that power disappears. That's not to say he's not strong, but once you're in the ground, he's in your world. The bigger they are, the faster they get tired, and most people think they can fight, but I guarantee you they can't last for more than 40 seconds. If you have በስነ ስርዓት ራሳችሁን መከላከል የምችሉ ከሆነና ሰውየውን በቃ ፔሸንት ካላችሁ 40 seconds is like in a one-on-one unarmed situation, because you're not going to wait 40 seconds. 40 seconds in a street fight is an eternity. So like one-on-one ካልሆነ በስተቀር you're not going to go on the ground with the guy ራሱ. ግን if you can pin someone down for... The last video I posted was a dude that thought his soccer cardio would help him out. He's super young. And the second I clenched with him, I knew he wasn't strong, so I just like decided to have fun with him. And by the time like 30-40 seconds happened, he was so gassed out. I was lifting him up off the ground. And that's what happens. People don't know adrenaline dumps ሲደረግ they get tired quick, their legs become shaky. It happens to us too when we're about to compete. We get nervous, and ለ10 ደቂቃ ፋይት ማድረግ የሚችል ወይ 2 ሰዓት ሳያቆም ፋይት የሚያደርግ ልጅ ጂም ውስጥ ኮምፒቲሽን ላይ በሁለተኛው ደቂቃ ታየርድ ይሆናል. So it's not something that you can just wake up or watch a video and then you can do it. Like you have to have it done to you. Yeah, like I'll teach you again on how to break the arm, and 2 of you, and I'll teach you both how to defend the arm break. So you know how to defend it, and you both know how to break it. But when I tell you do it to each other, it's not as easy as it looks, because you're doing that to a resisting, conscious opponent who knows that's coming. And he, like, my goal is not to beat these guys that come for the 50K challenge. I know I could do that with my eyes closed. My goal is to beat the people that train every single day. That's what you're training to beat people that know how to fight. That makes training my Arabs which like a walk in the park kind of suga fight marag. And you'll be able to feel safe. I think that's something that most women don't have.
I know.
Like they just walk out and they get assaulted, and even if you've dealt with it your entire life and you kind of like, you know, have blocked it out, there's still underlying trait. Like if you're not in an environment where you can actually call out for help, you feel a bit more comfortable if you at least have a few tools under your belt where you at least I can do this, at least. But if you're underneath someone who knows what they're doing, or if like an angry man who doesn't know what he's doing, that there's nothing more terrifying than that. Like I remember my first day in jiu-jitsu, I was going up against my coach, Colin. He's an American black belt, one of the biggest pioneers in the sport, who contributed a lot. He is also the writer of a book that came out recently. It's on Amazon, like Bow Before No Man. It's about the origins of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, told by the grapplers in the country, but it's in the present day. And I remember I wanted to show him how strong I was, and I put him in a headlock, and I'm on the ground, he's on top, but I'm like just squeezing, and as I do that, like 10 seconds down, my arm is tired, and imagine his head is right here. Then I felt his knee on my head. Like, how the hell are you doing that? And then after that, for the next 4 minutes, I think he tapped me out in like 40 to 30 times. And he doesn't like wait for me to tap. Like he gets the arm, he knows he has it, and he just lets go and goes to the next move. He's like, I'm not gonna wait for you to tap and recognize you're screwed. Like I'll just do it. No, he just goes around and you're just sitting there looking. He's like, if this guy wanted to do things to me, like that's what I'm doing.
He would do it.
I have no option, and like I can't do anything. So now imagine what you'll be able to do. Even with a year of training against an untrained person, you will be competent enough to be able to at least recognize some patterns that most aggressive people that are doing. And then you teach yourself striking, defense, and whatnot. Immediately, you'll create an environment where you have no ego, where you can de-escalate situations, but you know how to see it coming, and you've built that muscle memory. It all comes down to practice. Like you can't just watch a video and expect to replicate it when the time comes. People watch stuff on UFC. It's like, yeah, I hear a lot of guys challenging. We're MMA fanatics, UFC Nile, and I think we're going to have a chance. Yeah, but you've never been choked out. Like I've been put to sleep once where I remember I was like doing this. It was in Algeria. And now we're doing this drills, and this guy, like I choke him out, and then it goes koala, and he's like, we practice. And I did it like 5 times or so less. His positional drilling, and he switched to a different choke, and I remember and he's using his clothes to choke me instead of his hands, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, watch this escape, because I don't feel the choke. Like it doesn't hurt, it's just blood flow being disrupted from going to my brain. Watch me. I'm like, 5 seconds later, like 10 guys have surrounded me, and I'm watching all of them. Where am I? Like, am I at the supermarket? Like, and like one of the guys is like, you just got choked out. Like, I just woke up and I went, oh, this is interesting.
This is a new one.
Yeah, like, and you know now what people feel. We call it, like I heard somebody, like this is my favorite way to describe it. It's called the reset. If I try to break your hand in a street fight, you go, because you might go up and try to start again. Nobody wakes up from a sleep like that. and is still angry. Like
You're gonna
it's
be
like I don't know, like 2 weeks of therapy.
Oh, it's a new day.
You feel like hours have passed. Like it's just 5 seconds you're out, but it feels like hours have passed. If you wake up and you don't know, like it's like waking up ከእንቅልፍሽ በቃ በ5 second ነው የተኛሽው. In your head, you think days have passed. Like, what are you doing? And like short-term memory loss for a few seconds. You're like, what just happened? Then you understand, and it comes to you over the course of the next few days, or maybe like you remember what happened. You remember why you didn't tap. People thought it was an ego thing why I didn't tap. I genuinely believed I was about to escape. Like I did not think that I was like falling asleep, but it happens, and it's better that you know that in the gym than on the streets.
Yeah.
Like for most females that practice in the gym, it's better that they know that in a safe environment where the guy's not actually hurting them than to find out on the streets for the first time. That's traumatizing and probably like best to prepare for it.
So a few of my friends jiu-jitsu ገብተዋል. So a few moves ያሳዩኛል because እኔም ጨቅጫቃ ስለሆንኩኝ ግን one of the things I noticed jiu-jitsu ላይ are the details. Even እጅ አያያዛችሁ እንደ ኖርማል ሰው አይደለም, ትሬን እንዳልተደረገ ሰው አይደለም. Even when they choke you, they know where to hold you so that እጃቸው ራሱ ከእጃቸው escape እንዳያረግ. So you best believe they even thought about what you're going to do next way before you did. Which means in the end of training ላይ a lot of injuries happen, and usually they're ድራፕ ተደርገህ ምናምን የምትመለስበት አይነት ኢንጁሪስ ናቸው. How do you recover? ወይም what helps in recovery in those kind of situations? Like
in my experience, like 2% of injuries in jiu-jitsu are unavoidable. Like when you go in, we all know we're gonna have those injuries, but we love it so much it's okay. Like once you start getting good at it, you'll be willing to. Some guys have like their MCL torn, and then you see them coming back like 3 weeks later. Like, and they don't even their doctors will tell them that's matu, and they're like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know, but I'm not going to class. But the thing is, most injuries happen. In my case, in my experience, is from lack of knowledge as to the things that you're not supposed to do, trying stupid stuff you saw online. So YouTube, Instagram, they come and try to do it. But there are certain other, the difference between knowing and not knowing in jiu-jitsu is life or death. For instance, for a very long time when I used to choke people, I used to just have my hand across and just squeeze my arms. And I used to gas out a lot. And now, like, choking people is not fun on me because I get tired, and now my arms are tired. I can't defend myself, and other guys are like on top, and I have to survive. Mm-hmm. And then I started learning new information where I learned like I can use bigger parts of my muscle, like my back muscle and whatnot, to choke the guy, where even if I don't have it under his neck, it will the muscles are generating so much power I could break his jaw if he doesn't tap. So even if I stop looking for the neck, the carotid arteries, it's still a choke, but I'm using my back muscles now as opposed to like just my arm muscles. So you get to understand what part of my body am I using. Am I using it right? You have to, and also like you get into the side quests where you start learning about the human body so that you know how to like attack it better. Like say for instance, there are certain ways for it. Like I need to put your arm on the mat, and there are certain directions and angles I can come from where I'm fighting your rotator cuff muscles as opposed to your, the big chest and lat muscles. So the same guy could be using 2 different techniques, same amount of force, and get different results based on how you approach it. And as for injuries, that's the worst thing that can happen to you when you practice. Not because of the injury, but you can't practice anymore, and everybody's in a hurry to go back to it. And I've had an injury, like a serious injury I've had was during a fight where this guy got me in an arm bar and I wouldn't tap. And it was a competition and I heard a few cracks. It's like kakaka, nagar silta samay. Then I escaped and I ended up winning that fight. But after that I had 2 more fights, and I did it with a hyperextended elbow, and the next morning when I woke up, my hand couldn't bend in this, like it was just fixed it. And I did a month of physical therapy, and it was hell. Not the pain,
of course not,
because if I had tapped, I would have avoided this. Like most people would tap and then and it's just my ego that's like there's no way I'm losing. But it taught me something about myself. It taught me that I'm willing to go there. Like I'm willing to have a limb broken just to win. And it felt weird, like having your arm broken or hyperextended. You'd think it'd be painful. not that day. It's the next morning. You feel it's like the whole day I was walking around, bending it, like stretching it out.
I won him.
Can you imagine fighting this man for his life? Forget for winning.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, if I tap now, that means if me and this guy fight for real, he could kill me. Competition ላይ ስለሆነ I took it seriously. In class, I tap all the time. I let white belt tap me out most of the time as well. I started doing that. But in competition, when the cameras are on, and nobody cares about a blue belt tournament. That's the thing, though. But in my head, I thought it was important. And I think I would do the same thing if I went back in time. It's just, I'm not that mature yet. But I was underneath the guy. Like, I escaped the next morning, physical therapy araku. And during that time, my friends are sending me videos of new guys that came that were like super explosive. Bro, like, if I was there, and during the physical therapies, I do solo drills. I downloaded some videos where you can do some movements just because you're away from the mats and you're recovering doesn't mean you should be away from progress. Like, you can still improve yourself. And I remember when I went back, I actually got back better. I was afraid that some people have gotten like a month over me and they're going to catch up or like they're going to beat me. And then I came back and I immediately was just destroying everyone because I didn't stop thinking. Your skill development stops when you stop thinking about it. Whether you're a hobbyist or a full-time athlete, if you stop thinking about the moves, because it takes 10 years for someone to be a black belt. That means there's so much stuff for you to learn. So the more you think about it, escape you. If you can't train like we do 7 times a week, then you have to use the 3 times a week that you have in a very efficient manner. That means you can't just rely on what the teacher is teaching you. You have to have your own plans. Say that, hey, I'm escape. And when they're on top of you, you escape. And sometimes you have small wins. When I go up against higher belts, my win is not like me tapping them out. That's like, Zari Baradeko Stalanukuyim. I won. Zari, like 5 minutes I survived. That's a win. Zari, he got me with a leg lock. Now I'm learning how to escape it. But he still choked me out with a triangle, but it doesn't matter.
You changed the definition of your win.
Exactly. It's not that I lost. It's that he won. It's completely different. But it gives you this, you have to be okay with losing. If you're not okay with losing, you're not going to be in it for a very long, like you're going to quit immediately. ብዙ ሰዎች ተስፋ የሚቆርጡት በዛ ነው። አነስ ያለ ሰው ወይ በየሰዓቱ ይቀጠቀጣሉ and they feel like they're not improving, but it's those moments አንቺን ልትሻሻል የሚያደርግሽ. Unless you do it full time, and I have this change of perspective a while back, but oftentimes people don't learn from their wins, which you can. Like, just because you win all the time doesn't mean you can't learn from it. I've had fights where I won, and when I watched the videos, I could have done that better. Like, I could have finished them faster. Like, there's always improvement. But when you lose, your weaknesses are out for the world to see. Like, demonstrate. So it's up to you to go, like, I think the mentality is, I believe that there's nothing in this world that I can't get good at if I'm willing to fail at it. And because I've seen there's a direct correlation between hard work and success, I don't care whatever you, like, if you, like we talked about, like being stand-up comedian earlier, like a stand-up comedian that's afraid of telling a joke and getting like bombing is not going to make it. Like, every time you bomb, you're like, I'm going to quit. You're never going to get far. Like, it's not the people that are good that make it. It's the people that stay and who are left. I've had guys that were way more athletic than me, way fitter than me, that have quit right now. And if they stick to it, they would have been better. But like, I think 10% of white belts make it to blue.
Really?
And then 1% of blue belts make it to black. Yeah, jiu-jitsu has a very high quit rate. And for the people that do stay, they get obsessed. It's a lot of reasons. Like, some guy might get a girl pregnant and now his like priorities change. Some guy might have like some marriage life or something. Career might get in the way. It's a lot of things that, and especially Ethiopia when there's only one gym, and we're the pioneers and figuring out everything that like to get people to do this. It requires a lot of dedication to be able to, keep coming here and getting choked out, and you have to be able to see the bigger picture. አርቃችሁ ማሰማችሁ ከሆነ የዛሬ 3-4 ዓመት 5 ዓመት ልትሆኑ የምትችሉትን ሰው, if that doesn't excite you, you're not going to stick to it. Like, I would want to see so you guys could be under the same teacher 5 years down the line, even though you're getting the same content. Each and every single one of you will have completely different styles of fighting. And I want to see what my style of fight, because you might like choking people with your legs, like triangle chokes, and then somebody might have long limbs, long legs, so they might be able to like guillotine people በቀላሉ. Some people might have strong legs, so they might do certain or ረዘም ያሉ አጠር ያሉ ሰዎች. When you want to be a basketball player, የተለያየ specific የሆኑ body typeዎች አሉ, like that help to be a basketball player. You have to be tall as hell and everything.
No.
But for fighting, every human being can fight. You just got to find your style. If there's like a guy that's, with a 130 kilogram, but he's a world champion, and you're 130 kilogram and you're a white belt here, you watch what he does. Because if he can do it, you just copy the best, emulate it, and then eventually you'll end up being like them. So all you got to do is like, not can I fight or not, what's the perfect fighting style for my body type? You start out by learning the fundamentals, and you master them. But once you do that, you'll start to get your own style, your own technique. You'll add a little bit of, your own salt. Yeah. And then eventually you have your own style. There are guys, white belt that were known for specific submissions. If he gets you with that, you're done for. And that's as a white belt, they like distinguish themselves better. And then imagine 5 years of that same thing. Because you're always getting better. You're always learning something new. When you get to black belt, that's when you actually start your journey. Like people think black belts are nagging. It's over. No,
after 10 years.
Oh, you go back to the beginning and then you start the fundamentals and you start relearning them and that. Because when you get to black, that's where the challenge actually starts. Because there are other people that have been black belts for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years.
So you have to catch up to that too.
There's levels. Yeah, you have to catch up to that. You have to not only the competition is not other people. If you're a hobbyist, it's who you were yesterday. Like if you're worse than you were like befit, then you're doing something wrong. And your goal is like, am I doing better and am I always improving? Like ትናንትና የነበረኝ ክላስ ዛሬ የነበረኝ ክላስ ላይ ለውጥ አምጥቷል, ተሻሽያለሁ. And when you know those things are, contributing to each other, then you can see the progress clearly. And you should never lie to where you are in your journey. Like if you suck, you have to be true with yourself. Be delusional about where you're going.
Don't be delusional about your reality.
Or your future. But your reality, you have to be realistic. But then you're going to be like, looking like Rumpelstiltskin and be like, yeah, I look like Chris Hemsworth. And then now you're going to think like, you don't have to make effort for your personality or something. Like you think you should get, those opportunities in Blue just because. So that means like it forces you to work on your negative shortcomings. If you're realistic with what you don't know, and it creates exciting. I think most people quit because they don't create that excitement for themselves. They're always relying on what the teacher has to teach them, and they don't get a lot of benefit from it after a certain point. Like they don't get growth because they're not because being a teacher is very hard. Like you walk into a class, there's higher belts that have been doing it for a while, and there's complete beginners. So the class has to be like considerate of all those levels. So you start out by teaching maybe some beginner stuff, and the higher belts are like just looking at it like, I've been doing this for a while, it's boring. And then kas it gets more advanced and advanced and advanced. And sometimes when you're in a situation that we're in, you won't be able to always meet that standard. Sometimes it could be a class of white belts, so you have to make it interesting for yourself. You have to always give yourself new missions that improve. And now we have access to so much information. So whatever you want to get good at, there's probably like the best of the best out there that have put out content for you that you can learn, but you can't learn it online. Aitashu, you come to the gym and practice it. It's not, jiu-jitsu is not something you can get good at by taking online courses. Like like I said, I can teach you guys how to defend and break the arm, but then doing it to someone and defending it against someone that knows what they're doing, because I would consider myself to have a good armbar only if you know exactly what's coming. And you know how to defend it. But I know more about how to break than you know about how to defend. So, and then immediately you're just out of tools to defend yourself, and then you're out. And that's the chess game that most intelligent people meet. It's the problem solving of it. It's not 100% of my strength versus 100% of you. It's 50% of my power versus your leg. Or that's why small people can beat bigger guys, because it's not this guy versus me, it's my entire body versus his one arm. So you can create a tremendous amount of devastating breaks by just having a small superior understanding of physics.
Are there areas in Madat Jiu-Jitsu we have covered that a lot of pain happens? So in fighting, are there parts of your body you make sure are safe? because አሁን ለምሳሌ nerve endings እንደማይነኩ backbones areas where you know permanent damage ሊመጣ እንደሚችል when street fighting ላይ ሳይሆን specifically fighting ላይ እነዚህ UFC አካባቢ ላይ ሲሆን are they protected?
Oh yeah, the UFC is actually, people confuse the brutality for it actually not being safe. Boxing is more dangerous than UFC. Like they're in the cage ምናምን ነገር. If you're a good boxer, you know, 10 round ሙሉ you keep getting your head hit while you're concussed. You have enough experience to just bop and weave and move out the way, but that damage is long lasting. And MMA, you get kicked in the face, you're out. Or if you're no longer defending yourself, the ref stops it immediately. You've been dominated. There are certain things that you're not supposed to do, like spine, for instance. You're not supposed to do things to the spine that would permanently hurt the guy. You're not supposed to grab fingers. Now, in a street fight situation, the best advice I ever got for self-defense is by this Marine dude who told me, like, whatever they say don't do in martial arts, that's what you do for self-defense. So there are things that they say you should do that would also work, but you should also, like breaking the fingers, for instance, is not allowed in jiu-jitsu. Like, ከሶስት ጣት ወይ ከአራት ጣት በላይ በታች መያዝ አይቻልም. Because it's a small weak joint and it could be broken so fast. You won't even give the guy time to tap, and you don't know how much pressure is required ለመስበር. So you avoid those things. But in a self-defense class, it's a completely different thing. And assume levelዎች አሉት. Are you in a scenario where you care about his well-being, or are you in a life or death situation? So based on everything, there's no one one solution fits all type of thing. Like ለሁሉም ነገር modify ማድረግ መቻል አለባችሁ. And you practice. The thing is, you have to see it as a fun activity. You're doing something dangerous, and you're learning it in a controlled environment. It's basically controlled aggression, but it's fun because you're getting good at something. Like, even like, this is why we have like 69, 70-year-old people at this age. They're becoming beginners at something so challenging because they know that ለ70 ዓመት ሰውዬ የሚሆን system አለ, so that he can use his old age እና የሱ old age ጋር ያለው advantage against younger guys. There are techniques and systems like old man jiu-jitsu ይባላል. In Croatia, one of our friends or people that come in our gym have a gym called Fat Man Jiu-Jitsu. So this is a jiu-jitsu system for fat people, and it works.
It does, really?
Yeah, they use their fatness in very creative ways. And then there's like long, lanky, skinny የሆኑ ሰዎች ደግሞ የሚጠቀሙት. It's like normal jiu-jitsu, but Fat Man Jiu-Jitsu is different. It's a bunch of fat guys that come together. They're proud in their fatness. They train after class. They eat pizza and beer.
God.
Like,
and I thought that was sumo. Good, okay.
Without the breaks. Like, but kind of true, but like, and then, so this is where you get to be creative. Jiu-jitsu on a global scale is still new. It's not even in the Olympics, but it's effective. You can't doubt that. Anyway, I feel like there's like 5 martial arts that you can do that are really effective for self-defense. Like, I would say Muay Thai, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing would help as well, and maybe Krav Maga or judo. But I put them under the umbrella of grappling and striking. So from striking, I believe ሁሉም ነገር ያካተተ would be Muay Thai, or ደግሞ let way ይባላል. It's different from Muay Thai, where they actually use their heads to hit you as well. From grappling, I think it's better if you're just a well-rounded grappler. There's judo, not wrestling, where they primarily focus on taking the guy down, and it's very physically demanding. Jiu-jitsu focuses on, once the guy is on the ground, what do we do with him? So wrestlers know how to control you. They know how, like, they're focused on, like, you know, keeping an adult male on the ground and imposing their will on him. Like, you can't move, and that's it. Judo, fancy takedowns, could be devastating if it's done on concrete. It could be life-ending or severe damage. Same thing with wrestling as well. But I felt like submission grappling is a good umbrella that's underneath, where ከሁሉም አሪፍ የሚባለውን ነገር ተወስዱና አላስፈላጊ የሚለውን ነገር ተውታላችሁ. But again, it depends on what your goal is. When you join jiu-jitsu, do you want to get fit? Do you want to do it for self-defense? Like, on ለምሳሌ, if you just want to do it for the sport, you might not have to learn takedowns. Like, they're world champions. Takedowns like a world champion. But for self-defense, you have to know takedowns. Takedowns can come in many ways. It could be used as a de-escalation method. It could be used, there's like 3 levels. The first one is one-on-one unarmed situation. two of you, the guy doesn't have weapons, you know that you get into a situation, you take him down, you control him, you submit him, or you don't even have to submit him, you just wait until he's tired and you just walk away. Second is you use takedowns in a way where you're trying to walk away, but you don't want to run. Like people always say, like somebody comes up to you, you run. No, running makes you weak. Like it makes you look weak. Like when you're running, the guy's not just going to stand there. He's going to follow you, chase you, and then he's supposed to beat you, like he's going to beat you up over there. But when you're walking away in a like dominant way, like you probably could have a high single leg where one of his legs are like above your shoulders. You just trip him down, he just slams on the ground, and then now you're backing away, letting him know that I could do a better, like a worse version of that. So now he knows, oh, I'm not going to go up. Like most people are afraid. Predatory people ለመጣላት የሚቸኩሉ are probably more afraid of what you could do to them than you are of them. That's why they're loud. It's like something that you see in the wild, in wildlife. Like some animals have a way of making themselves appear bigger to scare away predators. And it's true in human beings as well. ራሳቸውን ግዙፍ ማስመሰል ይፈልጋሉ። ራሳቸውን እየጮሁ they think being the loudest is going to help them out. I used to do that as well. And sometimes it works. Sometimes you put on such a good show. Like they'll be terrified and they'll come and apologize and you're thinking to yourself, oh thank God. Like, I didn't know what would have happened if he actually came up. Like, but oftentimes when you know what to do, you don't want to get into fights. I've seen a guy that told me like, sometimes I'm afraid when someone picks a fight with me. Because I know if I start something, like the only way it's going to be over is if I kill you. So I'm not going to fight if that's not going to go to that point. I'll just try to avoid it. But if you've been put under test over and over and over again, and you know that there are levels to this, and you know that you're safe, and you don't need to prove anything else, you're not going to chase or try to start an altercation, because there's so many things you don't know. He might have a weapon. Like, and
you now know all the possibilities of the things
so
that
many
could
possibilities.
happen.
You have to have really good cardio to at least run like hell. And if you don't, you have to be able to like have pre-fight de-escalation techniques where, like I was showing him earlier, like the way you stand, the way you hold your hands, it's preparing you for a fight, but you don't look aggressive to the guy. So it's kind of deceiving. You like if someone's filming from the side, now if you use like some of the de-escalation methods that we teach, you'll think on camera you're being but your hand is already up long enough for you to be able, like if he throws a punch you can block, or you're ready to go for his legs, and there are certain things that you can do. But in a society that is litigious, where you could potentially get sued for a lot of things, it's better you play it safe, and it's better that you choose safer techniques. Because oftentimes people that choose fights, they're probably drunk, or they're not even ready to fight. Like they just yell because they've had a bad day or something, but when you stand up on them they act like, so like you don't know what's going on in their head. You don't know what they're willing to do. Some guy might have had his wife cheated on him, and now like and then he runs into you and you're like, what? Did you just look at me wrong? And then he's just like, oh, and then he just became part, like on it. Like you don't know, like very small thing could be very violent, but I'm so it's always better to know that you can handle yourself. But most guys feel like there's this saying where it's like being the bigger person. I don't like how being the bigger person feels too close to being a wimp. And they feel like makes them feel like, but if you know that you can handle them, it's like you're showing an act of mercy. It's like you're lucky. Like I told him like a few days ago, or about a week ago, me and my coach, who's a dangerous guy, Omar, just pushed us. And we're just leaving the gym after like 3 hours of just non-stop training, and he just pushed us, and we just like, we didn't even make eye contact. We just created a frame so he doesn't close distance. We're just walking away. He kept on coming, and I had to get in the middle and shove him. And we told him to or something like this. And he wasn't even verbal. He just you can tell he wasn't all there. And 5 seconds later, he just walked away. Now, he's lucky because he ran into us where we didn't feel the need to prove anything. If it was anybody else, he would have had a,
He ran into you and he's lucky?
They might have hit him right.
I have a question, though. You have been talking like how dedicated you have to be to the sport, and like how many hours in a day you have been...
Cement.
So, how about work-life balance? How do you have a life?
If you're that's the thing. That's the beauty. You don't.
You don't?
You don't have a life. And that's true for anything. If you want to get really good at something, like the best in the world, you're not going to do that by, if you're a hobbyist, you're going to try to find a balance, because you don't have to train 8 hours a day. You could just do that 1 hour, like Kao Juventus 3 times a week class aለ, and ከ12 ሰዓት እስከ 1 ሰዓት ነው. It's after work. So a lot of people come there, and we do it during the day የኛ class. And you're not going to find an easy round if you join us. ካሳንቺስ ምንሰራበት ቦታ ጋር everyone is out there to give you a hard time, but you will be better in a very short time. But it's not like
ካልተሰበርክ
you won't. Here's the thing. You usually get hurt when you go up against a lot of beginners. If I have your arm in a way that I can break it, and I've had like 2 years of experience, Nagar, that's the safest position you could be in the gym, because I'm not going to break it. I'm going to give you, like I said, my coach, the first time we rolled, like, he didn't wait for me to tap. He just got it, go. Got it. Like, so I'll give you enough time to work, and then you'll also work on your escape. So you know you're safe. You know you're not gonna, guy's not gonna rip the submission. Like, I don't do that to white belts. I don't give white belts submission joint locks, because in a white belt's mind, ከስንት አንዴ ነው እንደዚህ አይነት ፖዚሽን ላይ የሚያገኙት እና ልክ እጅሽን ሲያገኙት ወይ አንገትሽን ሲያገኙት they feel like they're never gonna get that chance again for a very long time, so they think I have to finish it immediately, and they start pulling really hard. And you see, like, if they actually had it, they could have done really bad damage. That's why when you're going up against, like, most of the women on your classes, if the guy doesn't have at least 4 months of experience, they're not going to roll with him, because he hasn't killed that ego yet. Yeah. But once he killed that ego, he will also get better faster. But at the same time, everyone would want to roll with him, and he will be able to, like, decrease and increase the level of intensity depending on who they're fighting. Now, when I fight girls that are like 50 kilograms or so, I'm not adding the same type of pressure on them that I'm adding on the guys. I'm letting them escape, work, and the better they get, the harder time I'll give them. But until they get better, until they build that confidence, you have to let them work. And that's true for the men as well. But the men, the thing is, ሴቶቹ ሲመጡ ጂማችን ውስጥ, our whole goal is to get them to be more aggressive, because they're too considerate of how you feel. Like, especially when they roll with each other, I get so pissed. It's like
it's a social learned behavior.
It's a social behavior.
That's true. I get that. And with the guys, we try to get them to be more considerate. Like, kill that ego. Most white belts, I will meet the energy you have, Lualo. So I start super slow. And if he goes around and elbows me once by accident, I'll just turn it up and just make that time hell for him the next few seconds, and I'll tell him, this is why I did it for Yenagral. My coach did that to me. Like, I remember I elbowed him in Algeria. Like, he's a black belt with like 20 years of experience. Just looked at me. And he just got up, picked me up, slammed me on the ground, knee on my belly, grabbed my leg, my head, and he started, like, pushing and pulling. And that's not even a submission.
That move is amazing to watch, by the way. Like, he had done that in one of his 5-minute takedowns, and beautiful to watch.
Yeah, ሳምንቱ ሙሉ የበላሽው ነገር
yes, እንደ እንጨት የሚያጥፉ ነው የሚመስሉት the position itself. And you cannot, at that minute you realize, oh, so እንደዛ ሊታጠፍ ይችላል የሚለው ማለት ነው.
What it does is, it's actually adding so much pressure on your breathing indirectly. So already ደክሞሻል ስትይ ይጫንሻል, and then አየር ስታስገቢ, it's like you don't have access to air anymore, especially if you don't know how to escape and you're there for more than a few seconds. You feel like your ribs are about to break. You can't breathe. It's very easy to escape. It's one of the most unstable positions in jiu-jitsu, actually. But against the beginner, it feels like hell. And if it's a black belt doing it to even someone like, imagine, I consider to be myself like one of the at least top 5 grapplers in the country. But there are still a boatload of people that will make me look like a beginner.
Really? Ethiopia?
Not in Ethiopia.
No.
From other, because they've had it way longer. Like, they've had it for 20 years, 15 years. Some of them 50, 50 ዓመት በላይ ሰርተውታል። ከትምህርት ቤታቸው, like, from high school ጀምሮ የሚሰራበት, like, ከልጅነታቸው ጀምሮ they've been developing this their whole lives. So imagine, I started this in my early 20s, and there are guys that have been doing it since they were 5. So before they even learned how to walk, that's what they do. But the thing I love about Ethiopia is that it is like in the ነጭ ደፍተር ናት. You could be the first so many things. Like, being the 40th jiu-jitsu black belt in Ethiopia is still a big thing. And we don't even have a single black belt on Ethiopia's jiu-jitsu. The highest level we have is a purple belt, Yared Nuguse, African champion, who was also our coach, the owner of Kao BJJ. But besides that, the highest level we have is a purple belt, 2 purple belts now, and blue belts. And then a bunch of white belts. But besides that, it's still at its birth. So whoever joins right now and starts, 10 years down the line, they will be one of the only black belts in the whole country. And that means, like in other countries, jiu-jitsu is a luxury sport. You have to be rich to be able to afford it. Like here, we're making it as cheap as possible so that people could come try it. And then once they do it, they're set for life. Like the hardest thing about jiu-jitsu is convincing them to step on the mats. Once they do, the sport will make them fall in love by itself. True. Like immediately, nagabash, especially if you're one of those people that enjoys problem solving. Like I give you a problem, I show you how to solve it, and then I give you a better problem. Always you're just improving. 20 years of improvements. Like Silsamat with Sarut, you're always going to learn something new. It's just infinite like that. So you're never going to get bored of it unless you're, stuck on a routine that you're not learning anything new. But I think that's one of the reasons why it's addictive for people. There's this, it satisfies their curiosity, intellectual stimulation, and the community is beautiful. Like you see people that you can talk about anything and nobody gets offended. From different religion, different ethnic groups, it doesn't matter. What matters is how well can you perform on the mats? How dedicated are you? How consistent are you? And it says a lot about who you are on the mats. Because I've seen guys that are super shredded. Just a little bit of pressure starts, they tap immediately. And I've seen guys that have never seen an ounce of muscle in their body. And they will be able to withstand some amazing things that like most people would tap to immediately. And it tells you like, oh, this guy is mentally tough. He's going to stick to it for a very long time and he's never going to, like, he's not going to quit. And some guys will be complaining all the time. Is he going to like, and those guys, if they love it enough, they'll toughen up. It changes you over time. That's what it does. Because in order to be good at it, you can't be the same guy you were when you walked in. You have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to fail. And you have to enjoy the failure. Like, you have to understand that's where champions are made. Like, I told my coach, like, I felt like I was getting really bad on a Saturday. And he goes, yeah, that's a good thing. Whenever you start, like, because when you learn something new and now incorporate it into your game, your overall performance, because now you're doing a new form of attack. So you feel like everyone is crushing you. But if you're willing to get crushed for the next 2-3 weeks, you just hit this upgrade that is obvious by everyone. Like, you get really good, but those 3 weeks of you feeling like hell, you feeling like, oh my god, I'm going to quit. Like, I remember when we went to Algeria for a training camp, we got our ass kicked so bad. Like, then we started realizing, like, what are we doing with our lives? Why are we doing this? And then as soon as the class is over, we're like, I'm glad that happened. Really? Like, you never regret like coming to class. Most people in class, they doubt themselves. Like, once they come, they're like, I'm glad I came. And whenever you miss out, something cool happens in class. It's like that thing where, like, I miss one day and Beyonce performed in the cafeteria. And like, you miss something in this, something that, like, people can do for the rest of their lives. No matter how old, no matter how young they are, there will be a style for them. There will be people, their weight class. You can be a world champion. In the next 10 years, you guys can be world champions as a hobbyist. Because when you go and fight, you're not just fighting someone who's been doing it since he was 5. But weight class, by experience level, by intent. So amongst people that are like 34 who've been doing it for 5 years, you're the best globally. And you'll get a certain type of award, reward for that. You train your ass off. You go into competition and then you win. And like, I remember like my first tournament, like I had like 6 fights or 4 fights and I beat everyone with submission. And then the next tournament after that, I beat everyone with submission, but it was even faster. And then after that, I was doing like fancy stuff, like, because I knew nobody could tap me out, nobody could pin me down. And each and every single one of those got me excited for the next one. Like, and people say, yeah, you can learn from your losses. Oh, yeah, you can really enjoy it and learn from your wins as well. Yes. Like, there's nothing, like, now, the reason I let my arm get broken is because of that. Like, I don't want to break that streak. Like, like, winning becomes important to you now, but you also understand how to lose. Like, as much as you love winning, you have to be okay with, like, or at least you have to learn how to use your losses.
So what I understand about martial art is originu Japan ውስጥ እንደነበረ when Japan Emperor decided nobody is allowed to have weapons. The people decided through hand combat, self-defense መማር, which we now know as ማለት ነው. So I would love to know how you got introduced to jiu-jitsu.
Okay, I'll mix that with like a little history lesson about the origin of jiu-jitsu as well. ሲጀምር, like you said, jiu-jitsu was one of the martial arts where at least it was formerly known as judo. It was originated by Igoro Kano በሚባል ሰውዬ, no, in Japan. So jiu-jitsu originated in Japan. So it came as a way of samurais when they were unarmed, ራሳቸውን የሚከላከሉበት መንገድ እንትን እንዲሉት. And it had a lot of strikes, punches, joint locks, and strangles that were involved. And then after a while, Igoro Kano kind of reinvented it and got rid of some of the most brutal የሚባሉ ቴክኒኮችን, and it became known as judo. And he focused more on the takedowns and ground, ኔዋዛ ነው የሚሉት, መሬት ላይ የሚሰሩት ነገር. And one of Igoro Kano's students, I forgot his name, but he ended up going to Brazil. And he taught a bunch of Brazilians, one of them namely Carlos Gracie. And Carlos Gracie and his brothers, specifically Helio Gracie, over the course of 100 years or 80 years, they perfected the sport and focused more on refining it in a way where አነስ ያሉ ሰዎች ተለቅ ያሉ ሰዎችን ማሸነፍ የሚችሉበት. Especially Helio Gracie wasn't as athletic or as big as his other brothers. And it's Helio Gracie's, I think, grandson, UFC one ላይ የነገርኳችሁ, Hoist Gracie, came and just destroyed everyone. And that's how it came to be. And when I started jiu-jitsu, I was aware of the sport. UFC one in ካየሁት በኋላ ምናምን, this is one of the most effective እንትን እና ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ያለም አይመስለኝም ነበር. And one of our guests, when I was working at the radio station, ended up practicing the sport. And she was famous for reviewing books on TikTok, like በእንግሊዝኛ ታነበውና በአማርኛ translate አድርገው. She got really big on that. And we're like, this is very interesting. Let's interview her about it. And my co-host asked me, like, just talk to her. And he knew I was interested in combat sports. And I ended up asking her, and she told me how much the fee was, that there was a tournament the next day. So በአርብ ቀን ነው የመጣችው. She came on Friday, and I signed up on Monday. And I remember, like my story is also on the book that we had that we had just published. And I saw Colin, the black belt from America, and everybody else was doing classes. And I just came in. It's like, where do I pay? Where do I sign up? He's like, just see the sport. The first 2 classes are for free for you to try it out. And Tim was like, no, I'm here to stay. And I remember also he told me this thing where he saw how intensely I was training a month down the line, and he told me a lot of people get worn out because gigas alu manilalu, and then they get excited about the sport, and then 6 months later they burn out because it was too much into it. Oh yeah, he got relocated. He works he's a diplomat, is he? But he was just teaching us, there was nothing in it for him. He just does it as a hobby, but he did so much for the country and for the grapplers within the country. Sportu lamasaddeg ብሎ. This is the beautiful thing about it. He doesn't do it full time. He's a hobbyist. But he was one of the most influential pioneers in spreading this in the country. And he even introduced us to his coach, Aaron Morris, to his professor, which ended up making us an affiliate for Team Choklab. ያ ማለት ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ያሉ ግራፕለሮች ከዚህ በፊት pathway አልነበራቸውም. Like some of them thought they would be white belts forever because a black belt has to promote you. እና ደግሞ መመዝገብ አለብሽ internationally recognized እንደመሆን. So every blue belt that was here is internationally recognized, and because we're affiliated with a real school. So now everybody has a pathway. In the next 10 years, 20 years, we're not just going to be white belts. There's a structure to our progress. But I love the fact that we're the only ones doing it. I probably wouldn't have done it full time if Jiu-Jitsu Ethiopia was already for 2 decades developed ቢያደርግ ኖሮ. Even if I'm not the best grappler in the world, I can be the best coach and create the best grapplers in the world and just obsess over it. There's so many things that you could be good at, and I'm a huge believer in በአንድ ላይ ያለው ውስጥ አንደኛ ከሚባሉ ሰዎች ውስጥ መሆን ማትፈልጊ ከሆነ ወይ መሆን ማቺ ከሆነ በዛ በምትሰሩ ዘርፍ ላይ what are you doing with your time? You shouldn't be even doing that. You're just surviving. I only look at the podcast that you guys are doing. How long have you been doing it for?
YouTube day for almost 9 months.
9 months? Now imagine how effective and just fluently you'll be able to do everything 5 years, 10 years down the line. You're going to be smarter because of all the people ከምትናገሩት እዚህ እየመጣ you're going to have a very diverse perspective. Your social skills ይጨምራል. And you're basically, I believe everything should have belts. Like this belt system just makes it easier. Like if you're a graphic designer, like what belt level are you? Are you a white belt, a blue belt? Like it's very easy to know what level they're at and how much work they've put in, because everything in this world has complex systems if you want to be good at it. If someone's the best at something, like we said, stand up, there's white belts in stand up, and there's people that don't even need to, like I want to say, if you look at someone like Dave Chappelle, who's been doing it since he was like 8 or so, he could do it in his sleep, but versus someone that's just starting. One of my favorite shows is Kill Tawny, and it's like a podcast where they bring people like stand-up comedians and they just start out doing like they're supposed to be funny in 1 minute, and some of them is their first time doing it, and then if they suck, they get roasted by the hosts, which are professional comedians and whatnot. So and they say which አንዳንዶቹ መጀመሪያ ሲመጡ የነበራቸው level እና over the course of a few years, if you're a fan of that show, you'll see some of them getting really good. And watching that, like when I see people that are really good and I want to emulate that, I don't try to look at where they're at right now. I try to see like where they began, the struggles that they went through. That's what makes them relatable. You see guys like Jeff Bezos, Kumneger, you have to see how they came up and the things that the sacrifice that they did. They didn't just come out of nowhere. For a very long time, Amazon wasn't making money. Somebody had to believe in them and somebody had to invest in them for I think it's like for 10 years they're just meeting break-even point. They were making profits. All that sacrifice, because nobody cares until you make it. Like there are some Ethiopian fighters that are so good, world class. Nobody cares about them because they don't represent the country in front of a bunch of cameras. But that doesn't mean they're not Ethiopian fighters or grapplers. Like I went to Nairobi and got gold after like a year of just training. And in Ethiopia, it doesn't mean nothing. But if I did the same thing in the Olympics, now people would be cheering your name and whatnot. What I'm saying is that down the line, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we will be the people that create the opportunity for the next generation to go and be able to be good at it. Maybe hopefully like see this martial art being practiced in schools. And the younger you do this, there's actually studies that came out, like children that do martial arts, specifically jiu-jitsu and wrestling, have higher levels of impulse control. They're more disciplined. They're more aware, confidence, and especially wrestling የሚሰሩ ልጆች, they have the toughest minds ever because it's so physically demanding. I remember the first day I did MMA with my coach, mixed martial arts. The first thing he made us do, it was a camp. One of our friends was going to Uganda for a fight. Not camp in Nargile. I was like the grappling guy to help him train all day. And at that point, my coach wasn't even charging us. To this day, he's not even charging us. He rented the place out of his own pockets. And he's like, you guys come and I'll train you and teach you everything I know for free. And it was Omar that did this for us. And then now I try to do the same thing for my students. Like if they can't pay, don't worry about it. But you have to be dedicated. You have to come 7 times a week or else I'm going to charge you. And then that's the price they get for like, you giving you their time. And then like that inspires you to like, oh, I'm glad I'm not charging this guy. And they end up being good training partners for you as well. And he was showing us this MMA moves and whatnot. And on the first day, what he made us do is jab, which is like this, my left hand. I throw a jab and then I pick the guy up and I slam him on the ground. And then I do jab straight and then I do a single leg takedown. And he makes us do that for an hour. And we just look at him like we're tired. Our body can't move. And then do it again. He just gives us this look. We just keep doing it. 2 hours passes. And at some point, we forgot that we were tired. Because the exercises got harder and harder as we went on. But a week later, we're still fighting on the mats. We're like, what we do is like 5 ሰዓት ነው ከ4 ሰዓት እስከ 10 ሰዓት ድረስ ካሳንቺስ እንሰራለን. And then ከካሳንቺስ we walk to Juventus Sports Club. And then ከ12 ሰዓት እስከ 2 ሰዓት ተኩል Juventus እንሰራለን. And then we go home. And that's like the best time of my life, where we just saw that how to kill the pain. Like sometimes when you're doing ab workouts or neck workouts, you feel like there's this burning sensation in your neck or your abs, and now you feel like you want to get tired. And what we were taught was to enjoy that pain. Like you want to give up. Most people give up, but once you ignore it, there's something that goes in your head where you're like, like ማቃጠል ከጀመረበት I could keep going for like an hour longer. And by the time I'm done, I won't even be able to stand up. I can choose to ignore that pain. I can choose to ignore that that quitting mentality.
Mind over matter.
But you have to do it, and you have to believe that you can do it. And then you'll forget that it exists. Like right now, we can fight for 2 hours without taking a break. We actually did that a few weeks ago as a memorial for all our teammates that passed away through different reasons. So like we're just going to roll for them, and they're like 2 hours, we're not going to stop. Like I think it's like 6 of us, 1 female, and we just did it 2 hours not stopping. And what I realized was the closer we got to the 2-hour marker, the more energetic we got. Like we were just picking each other up, slamming them. It was more aggressive. The mats were covered in sweat. Whenever you walk, you just slip and fall. But that's where your wins are built. Like if the training በጣም ቀላል ከሆነ, then the fight becomes hard as hell. If the training is hard, the fight becomes easy. So which one are you going to choose? ጂም ውስጥ ገብቼ ደም ተፍቼ ከሰራው, I might hate every moment of this, but ጂም ውስጥ ወጥተን fight በማድረግ ሰዓት when I challenge someone, it makes it easy. It makes it look like I'm not even trying. But if I'm slacking off in the gym, I shouldn't be surprised if I lose tournament ላይ ገብቼ ወይ fight በማድረግ ሰዓት if somebody beats the crap out of me. You're the results of the work that you've put in. And if you're not, you have to be, that's where you have to be realistic about it. And there's a direct correlation between success and hard work. There's no way around it. Of course, there's luck and opportunities, especially opportunities to work hard. Most people in Ethiopia so yeah, one of the reasons jiu-jitsu is being held back is because of that. Our fighters who would dedicate their entire lives just to being the best in the world, it's not opportunity that they need where they get funded and not even but it's the opportunity where like throughout the day, like 8 hours a day, train ማድረግ የሚችሉበት የላቸውም. They have to eat, they have to do work, they have to do all these things. And some of us are blessed with resources that ይሄን ማድረግ እንችላለን. ከጠዋት እስከ ማታ ምንም ሳንል ምንም ነገር ሳይጎልብን መስራት እንችላለን. And some people are doing that while, you know, maybe doing ride, while maybe doing video editing on the side. Some fighters do like programming ምናምን ነገር, long distance payment ይኖራቸዋል. So it's not opportunity that we need to like make us succeed, but an opportunity to work hard. That's all most Ethiopian men need. Like whatever craft they're in, if you give them a platform, like this is where you come in and you fail. Like I was reading this book called Outliers, and they were talking about like why people are successful, like outliers, the billionaires, and they all have similar stories. It's not that they're different. It's that from a very young age, this is actually an interesting study that they did on that book, where with the help of a violin teacher, or like a music teacher, 3 groups of students were categorized. And now the first group was people that are going to be the stars. Like they're going to be selling out arenas and whatnot. But I'm talking like the Teddy Afros of the game. The second group are really good. They're really talented, but they're never going to be as good as the guys in the group A. And group C have guys, at best, they'll be public school teachers in music. They'll never reach those guys. Now, when they look at what the other guys have that these people don't, is that the ones in group A that are going to be the stars have been doing this from the age of 5 or so. Each of them similarly, like and with every year group A they're adding more hours per week on their practice. So they're like 8 hours a day no practice and then now like 13 hours and then slowly they start out the same with everybody else, but as time goes on, the better they get at it, the more they enjoy it, the more the time they spend, and then by the time they're 20, they're already professionals, world-class athletes, world-class artists. And the one in the second category, like they're still good, but not as good as the ones in group A. They didn't have enough time to train. The ones in group C are started in their late teens. But the point is not that they started younger. It's that there's this rule of 10,000 hours. The 10 years that the group A had put down is what that was the amount of time that was enough. 10,000 ሰዓት ያን ነገር ሲሰሩ ለማሳለፍ እንዲበቃቸው ማለት ነው. You spend 10,000 hours doing something, you will be really good at it. 8 hours a day for a year is not enough. You have to do way more than that to be able to catch up to the guys. So that means even if you didn't start young, like you're the youngest you'll ever be right now, and 5 years from now, like that 5 years will pass whether you put that 10,000 hours or not. But what do you want to put that 10,000 hours on? Like you want to be the best at. It could be singing. It could be being like the best barista in the world. Like, and you could have like in this day and age, there's so many people getting famous, and like, you're familiar with that Haktu girl? Like, what I'm saying is just one word. ended up making her a millionaire. All these deals came to her. And I don't think it's just because she lived in the States. I think other people in different worlds could have, like, we live in the age of social media. You've seen people that are able to do so much with so little and zero skill. Just the confidence and willingness to embarrass themselves and make a fool of themselves. But if you're willing to choose something honorable that you're going to get really good at, that could help other people, that could potentially give you like income, then I don't think there's nothing that can stop you. If you have that opportunity to work your ass off, like you just wake up in the morning and you know that this is the sacrifice that I'm going to make. And no matter what you do, ነጋዴ ሆንሽ፣ አርቲስት ሆንሽ፣ ዘፋኝ ሆንሽ, each of those categories have sacrifices. ዘፋኞች successful የሆኑት, there's thousands of hours where they went from clubs to clubs. Sometimes they're performing 5 hours stretch ላይ ምንም ሳያቆሙ ምናምን ነገር. But people see the part where they're on the stage in front of thousands of people and people are calling out their names and they're like, I want to be that. But in order to be that, you have to go through hell. But that's the sacrifice. No matter where you go, you're going to have sacrifice. So like you get to choose የትኛውን ስቃይ ነው የምትፈልግ, የትኛው ስቃይ brings you joy. And for us it's jiu-jitsu, and it's fun as hell. And getting good at it is extremely rewarding. Like knowing that there's no man like in this country that can do me harm in a one-on-one unarmed competition, on a one-on-one unarmed altercation, brings me some type of peace. It's not everything. Like you could just arm yourself and be like, I don't need that. But you're not going to go into a, like, so most of the things that I hear is like guys like, but I have a gun. Do you have a gun right now? No, I'm going to go home and get it. Yeah, but like I don't have to go anywhere. Like I'm ready right now. But we're not going to do anything. But what I'm trying to say, you don't need to, you need to have this type of skill, this level of competency, at least as a man, being able to defend yourself, as a woman, being able to feel some sort of safety in the country that you live at. Like I like you shouldn't be afraid of someone doing something atrocious to you. Like, or if you do them, well, you should be afraid for him. Like, because even as a woman, you can still do high amplitude takedowns where you could just, like, and for women, I prefer teaching women more dangerous stuff than men, because you never know when the guys don't have the self-control, the maturity to do it. Women won't do it unless it's absolutely necessary, and they need it the most. Like, we've heard so many things that have been happening in the past few months, and which now it got attention, but it's been happening for a very long time. But being prepared for it and having the skill sets that you need to at least have some sort of pathway as to what to do makes all the difference.
አሁን ቀደም ያልከው ፖይንት አለ. From your group አንድ ሴት ናት ያለችው. What do you recommend to increase those numbers?
I think that's something we've been struggling with as well, because the women that we have genuinely love the sport. They're obsessed with it, and our community is in a, like, if there are some creeps that make them uncomfortable, there are more men in the gym, like enforcers and whatnot, that will put those creeps online. Like
so yes, no gym true.
Juventus Sports Club and Kasanjis Garden. So like this is like really safe for girls to be at, because it's like a family. It's not just a place where you come, because you're gonna know these people for the next 5-10 years. Even if you've been training with each other for like a year, you're there with them every single day. You're choking them out. They're choking you out. They're like, you're trusting them with your life.
So intimate. Jiu-jitsu is such an intimate sport.
Very intimate.
Yes.
But you're not thinking about that at all when you're, like, most people are afraid of like sweat dripping on their faces when I'm Kumneger, and it will, but that's the least of your problems. Like the least of your problems is, what if this happens to me in a real life scenario? Will I be, because yeah, you might not be comfortable in the gym doing it, but you're better off doing it in the gym and knowing what you can do than finding out that in the streets and having no clue as to what you're going to do. Because you'll see that in white belt, I get a dominant position and I'm thinking, like, there's some guys you can see them thinking, like, and then before that you've already escaped. Once it's automatic, like, you'll be able to, so here's the way I put it, like, the results you get out of it is worse the discomfort you feel. Like, and there's nothing that can replace the, safety of mind and peace of mind that you'll get from being able to defend yourself.
Does she train? Is that
Oh yeah, one of the girls actually trains 7 times a week with us.
Okay.
Like 50 kilograms and stuff.
Does she take students?
Huh?
Does she take students?
So what we're trying to do is get female instructors to teach, but we have to get them to be good as well. Because most of them are beginners. Some of them are not in the country anymore, like ጋብዘውታል, because of different opportunities they leave. But some of them are advanced. We have a female blue belt that's really good. We have other white belt females that are training with us that have like incredible potential. And what we're trying to do is, like, when we start these workshops, we teach them how to do this, and we demonstrate how other beginner women, like, because that's the thing. When one woman comes to the gym and she gets really good, she needs other women to practice with. Because with the guys, they're always going to have a strengths advantage. They're always going to be faster. And probably most of the guys have been there longer, so they have more experience. So on all fronts, they've been beat. But the women train with each other safely, more considerate and stuff, and they grow together. And then when they fight against the men, they'll have someone to work with that can give them tips and stuff. Like, and I used to have one of my training partners called Luca, who was kind of like a hobbyist, but he loves the sport. He trains, as you know, like, he trains with his wife, like, and we were like competitors, but we were also teammates, where we, like, whatever trick I see that made me better, I'm here trying to teach him everything I know, and he'll do the same. So if we have a fight a month from now, I'm teaching you everything I know to make you better than me. Iron sharpens iron. If I give you a limited form of information, I might win all the time, but it's not going to help me going up against people better than me. So the faster you get to my level, the faster we'll make each other better. And that's the whole point. You go to this place in Ethiopia, because sometimes, like, Toastmasters might be one, where people are eager to share everything that they know with you. You'll be annoyed by how many people will try to teach you. You'll start, like, limiting people information. Everyone is like, oh, you're doing that wrong, let me show you how to break the hand properly. Like, everyone was going to be on your team. That's why people come in and they stick to it, because there are some striking schools that I've been to where the guys fight and then they don't talk to each other in the shower. Here, you choke each other out. You try to kill each other for 5 minutes. You're in the shower. It's like, I would have felt more pain. So next time, do it like that. Yeah, that's how it is. It's like the laboratory where you come in and you get better together. It's not. Most people think it's a fight. For the first day, it might feel like it because everyone is better than you. But once you, like, most of the time, 2 weeks is enough, because most people go up to you, like, we don't want to invest time in you so that you're just gonna quit. And that's like, we get our heart broken. So we have to, like, see that you're going to be consistent. And then after that, you're like, everyone is your family. Everyone is your teammate. You meet outside the gym during the gym time. And you'll start to look at people that aren't practitioners in a different way. And you'll start to, like, you know what I'm saying, when I see people getting into fights, altercations, like, box sanzero, so you onistone yorkal. Like, I'm like, why'd you even start that? Yeah. Like, just walk away. And it's not even words. People usually fight over the dumbest things, and people don't understand how bad violence could be.
True. I wanted to ask, how does jiu-jitsu affect you psychologically?
In what terms? Like,
ማለት አሁን ለምሳሌ አንተ ሌቭል ላይ ከመድረሳችን በፊት where you could take a lot of people, psychological peace ይሰጣል የሚሉ ብዙ ሰዎች አጋጥሞኛል. As I said before, a few of my friends joined the team, and a lot of them explained that after exercising that hard, after facing that, ስንወጣ ያለው clarity of mind, ስንወጣ ያለው somewhat our mental stability, mental peace ያልኩ, not just because we can defend ourselves ብቻ ሳይሆን just because we have experienced that, it's just completely different. Now we don't know how exactly to explain it. I would like for you to touch up on that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever experienced anything better than the feeling that you get after a jiu-jitsu class. Like, I used to think lifting was like that, but this is different. There is this sense of euphoria. I think it's like an adrenaline high that you experience, or like a bunch of, like, dopamine boost that you get. But there's pure sense of happiness that you experience after you leave class. Maybe it's because your body doesn't know to tell, like, whether you're facing a predator or whatnot, and the fact that you survive just, like, you know, evolutionary kind of makes you, like, happy.
Thank God.
But people sometimes call it their church, because, like, they come in, they experience this, like, controlled violence. They made it through for another day. They walk out. The second, like, I can't explain it. You just have to go through it. And that's why no one will ever regret going to a class. Like, everybody that goes to school comes out feeling euphoric, and it's invigorating. I don't know how to put it into words, but you feel like you're tired as hell. Everything might hurt, but your mind is at peace. Like when you wake up in the morning, it's like people go to jiu-jitsu saved my life but killed my body. Like, and that's what you'll feel like if you do the gi. Your fingers might be a little like strapo. So you move part of your bodies that you've never thought you'd move in. Like,
really?
Yeah, you'd use parts of your body in a way that you like that is creative. You'll get a strong core. Your hip mobility will be really good. And your core especially. Like most guys feel really strong, but they're skinny. They just have strong cores. We can do planks for like 5 minutes straight without breaking a sweat. And the benefits of it, even if you're overweight, like being overweight is just fat. But if you're athletic and overweight, then there's fat underneath there's muscle underneath the fat. So you're just moving more weight, but you're still functional. Like one of the things I see from like people that are muscular is that their muscle is against them. They can't punch, they can't do anything, and they can't even like reach around certain areas to scratch themselves. Like it's just stiff. So you get the sense, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that you learn something new, but you feel that all the time. You rarely feel bad unless you get injured or something. You rarely feel bad after class when you finish everything. That's despite whether you have a good session, that means where you beat everyone, or you had a bad session where you get beat by everyone. It doesn't matter. You go off feeling euphoric. And it's something that you have to experience for yourself to see it. Jiu-jitsu is like this. Kickboxing, it's made for the spectators. ለተመልካቹ በጣም ያስደስታል. Jiu-jitsu ደግሞ ለተመልካቹ, they have no idea what's going on. But for the people that do it, it's rewarding. It's not spectator friendly. Most people will see MMA and they like everything what's happening. And then when they go to the ground, they're like, because they don't know what's going on. But for someone that understands it, you'll be much more appreciative of how hard it is. It's actually quite harder. When you're on the ground, someone's pinning you down, everything you do is tiring you out. And by the time you stand up, you've already depleted of all the energy you have. Or the moment you're getting punched in the face, there's nothing worse than that. When you're on top and punching the guy, MMA feels great. But when you're the guy on bottom, it feels like hell. And that's what you see. Like, I think it's primal for human beings. You see that everybody knows how to wrestle. We grew up wrestling with our friends.
Oh.
But like even me, like I remember like WWE and we thought it was real. We locked the class. Like me and my friends used to like jump on tables, jump on each other, like try to choke each other out. We weren't doing any techniques, but it was just enough. It just gave us happiness. I remember like class was grappling, but we didn't know it was grappling. We just thought WWE was real. But now when you do it, every animal has this thing where like tigers wrestle with each other when they're younger because it prepares them to be able to fight against actual predators. It gives them that muscle memory of what to do. And it's the same thing with humans. We just live in a society where that's not really required, which is actually required with that. We're still in Africa, we're still in Ethiopia. But just because we watch movies where people like they just have in America they just have a lot more guns where it's less effective, where it matters less what you do fighting. Again, Ethiopia, if the guys have knives, yeah, of course your jiu-jitsu is not going to do anything. You'll get stabbed like everybody else. But one-on-one unarmed situation, which is most of the time so which altercations we go, but you'll know what to do. You'll know how to control the situation. ከማዘሬ ጋር መኪና ውስጥ እየገባሁ ያን ነገር ከሱፐርማርኬቱ ተሰንገባ, if somebody came, I'd rather be the guy that controls where that goes than leave that to fate. I will decide what happens to that guy. Like I will take him down, and if he's not mentally stable or so, I'll just wait until the police comes. That's what I did in the Sophie Expo, where I got the guys to pin me down, and I told them, imagine I'm a thief. I just stole something from someone you like. Pin me down until the police comes. Can you do that? Then I just escape and then just tap them out. Or the more I pin them down, it's like try to escape. And they can scramble all they want. They won't be able to get up. Because I know where the power comes from. It's their hips, their legs. And if you know how to control it and add weight on it, in some scenarios, you can control a very strong individual and make them feel weak. But as far as to like, what is the feeling that people get ከክላሲዮቱ? You just have to experience it. We have girls, ማታ 3 ሰዓት ሰርተው ምናምን ሰሚት በታክሲ መሄዱ. And they're willing to take on that risk because there's something in it. And it's not like, I know there's like 2 places in the country and the location might be a bit of a demand for a lot of people, but it's not like a gym where you have it every block. Like it's a privilege for you to be able to work out in a sport that is effective, and you have people that are dedicated, that are teaching you moves that work, moves that will make you fitter, healthier, more stable, a more controlled person. Mentally ትረጋጊያለሽ. The way I deal with problems has changed before and after Tsiyon. Like The panic mode has disappeared. I can calmly resolve problems because whatever you experience off the mats is not as hard as what you experience on the mats. It's not, you can't compare it. Anything that can be solved by conversation is not the same as something that you have to solve through physical dominance, especially when you're going up against someone better than you.
I have to ask, is there any way can train ለማድረግ ከ4 ሰዓት እስከ 6 ሰዓት asking for a friend?
Oh, of course. That's what my gym does. ከ4 ሰዓት እስከ ቀን ከ5 ሰዓት ካሳንቺስ ያለው ጁቬንቱስ ከ12 ሰዓት እስከ 2 ተኩል አለ and የኛ ደግሞ we start ከ5 ሰዓት እስከ 10 ሰዓት. So anyone that comes within those time frames, we can create a class or a structure that accommodates their goals. We also give private classes, which is a bit more pricier because you're going to locations and doing a lot of, and with jiu-jitsu you have to take the mats if they don't have mats and stuff, so you have to put all those into considerations. But the group classes are more than enough to be able to join, and if you practice safely, especially like if you join on them, so you're going up against girls that have more experience than you, and they won't hurt you because they know what it's like to be a female in a gym where everybody's stronger and bigger. So like they'll try to give you time, and I'm like, I always yell at one of my students like, why aren't you being aggressive with her? Like, be aggressive with her. You have to be angry. Like, stop. This is not like mogzitna. Like, you have to show her what you can do, and then like as some she'll get used to that. Because when a guy is about to sexually assault you, you're not thinking, I hope I'm not hurting him. Like, you're trying to like get that fight or flight type of mentality to kick in, and you practice that in a gym where you know people don't hurt you, where you know that they come close to the threshold of violence because they come close to the threshold of violence, and you feel safe to practice that. You feel safe to experiment with different things. When you ask people questions, and people will do the research, and if they don't know it, they'll teach you that. And there are so many different types of men, adults, different sizes. So you can practice how good you are at certain things by going up to this guy, not like try this, and he just holds you down and you try to escape. And then you build that, because we're a teammate. You're not here to fight the guys that you're training with. Especially the self-defense. Those guys are there as like, when you go to a gym, like the weights are there to help you lift. Like you're not hurting the weights. And those are basically weights for your ability to fight. Those guys are your tools. But those guys are even more dangerous because they know what they're doing. So if you can handle them, you can definitely handle people that don't know what they're doing.
How much is that going to cost?
Just 2,000 per a month.
Really?
Yeah. Like I said, in other countries,
that's cheaper than most gyms.
That's cheaper than most gyms, and as rare as it is, we're okay with it because our main objective right now is to grow the sport. More people do it, more competition comes. We want they want the students to go out and open their schools. There's this rivalry now. That gets fans, that gets more people doing it, and then this skill that people can practice safely for a very long time. We believe the more people know how to fight, the safer the community will be. Because you don't know who's going to beat you up. Like Allah, if you come to our gym, you don't see people acting tough. If they do, they get humbled immediately. We have mat enforcers. Like somebody comes and is like acting tough, he's aggressive on his first day. Do everything you did on them. Feel free to be as aggressive as you can. And then you just humble him, and you do it without even sweating. Like, you do it without even hurting him. You just gas him out, do neon bellies, do different type of chokes, and you submit him like Bamus Dekos, 10 gize. And then he just goes, oh, I need to be calm. There are some guys that like tell me, I think I'm being too aggressive and that's hurting my progress. Like, what should I do? Just be okay with failing. Be okay. Like, some of the best guys in the world let white belts choke them out when I'm in class. And that tells you about their ego, because they know when the cameras are on, there's no man in the world that can beat them. But in the gym, nobody cares about your records. Like, nobody cares if you lose on a Wednesday at a gym. Nobody knows. Like, what matters is, if you're a competitor, is can you perform when the cameras are on? If you're not doing that, just try to have fun. Like you said, there are some beginners that you can't trust because ወጣት ሊሆን ይችላሉ, and you can tell በቀላሉ ሱራፌል አሁን ለምሳሌ your friend ሩፋኤል, sorry, he is so mature where I could let him have an extended arm and I know that he's not going to break it, even though he's a beginner. There's a level of maturity that he has where he can see the long term stuff. But a much younger guy would think, I'm going to win. They don't like the idea of someone being able to kick their asses. But then you have to amp it up. Like some guys, I'll tell them, when we start, I'll fight relaxed. But if you do something that's aggressive and I feel pain, that's not necessary, I'll make you feel twice then. But I'll do it with love.
And respect.
And respect.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask, is there or are there channels YouTube like that teaches women self-defense that you would recommend?
The thing about YouTube is there's just so much content out there, you don't know which one to trust. The best way to do it is with a trusted instructor, with an environment where people have tested what works and what doesn't work. Because now I watch 1 or 2 instructors right now who have some of the best ones. Like we get their instructionals and then because we know that those guys, those coaches, their students are world champions. So they have a proven record of creating beasts. So you can trust them. But if someone is out there that has never done it, because in Ethiopia you see that. A lot of martial artists will tell you, we can make you an expert. You be training for 3 years with them and get your ass kicked in the first fight that you get into. So you have to be able to trust the information that comes from you. You have to be able to know that your coach can actually do the things he's teaching you. And one of the challenges we're doing is this. I literally offered, not just anyone, like all of Ethiopia, all the men in Ethiopia, the bodybuilders, the bouncers in nightclubs who think they're tough, come get that 50K from me. I dare you. Like...
ሰምታችኋል ማለት
like, and the thing we see is like most people come in and they get amazed and they join us immediately because they're like, oh, when are we going to be able to do this? And because it's new and there's like, it's not like you have options where you get to like pick between, like there's 2 schools that do this. And you've seen that UFC is the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Over 40, now 36 of the champions come from a wrestling background. Over 17 of them come from a jiu-jitsu background. We consider ourselves as jiu-jitsu athletes, but we also are like new generation jiu-jitsu athletes. So we see ourselves as submission grapplers. So we learn wrestling, we learn judo, we learn all of those things again, under the umbrella of primarily jiu-jitsu. Our skill sets are consistent of all those. So when you come to our gym and train, like Anam Sari Yarid, our jiu-jitsu instructor, the owner of the Kawa school, he is a black belt in judo. So you not only get a jiu-jitsu coach, you get a person that is well equipped in other martial arts as well. He's a lifelong martial artist. And we are trying to get the best of everything. So we know it works. We know it's been proven on the biggest stages. Again, Ethiopia has the awareness of what works and what doesn't work. Ethiopia is like in a small time loop. Like whatever is happening in the world, whatever happened in the world 50 years ago is happening right now. The best part is we get to cheat and like see whatever they did and learn from their mistakes. So everything we're doing right now to grow the sport has already been done in other countries. America, there's like 1 or 2 schools in one state. But now there's like over millions of schools everywhere. Every block you go, there's a jiu-jitsu school. Every block you go, there's like everyone is learning it. And it's inevitable that Ethiopia because the second people learn how to do this, Ethiopia is like on average, half the people are small and malnourished. They're not going to like get access to the proteins they need to bulk up and get big enough to defend themselves. Bigger guys might not need it because you see them like because bullies have a predatory mindset. They're not going to fight someone they think they're going to lose. They're going to fight someone they think they're going to win. So like bigger guys don't get that trouble because automatically people assume they know how to fight unless it's the guy that knows how to fight that's doing that to them. But like they don't need it oftentimes. But for a lot of Ethiopians, learning how to fight or at least learning how to defend yourself is a life-changing experience. You just like this discipline I told you about where we get to ignore the pain. If you can do that, you can do anything. I don't think there's anything harder than that I've ever experienced. Like I remember working with my dad where we used to carry stuff for his company, like ceramic like my dad like was one of those guys that just like get his hands on, even though he could just hire people to do that. And like we used to carry with all the like the shakamiyoch and everything and ceramic but some of that helped me now because I'm deceivingly strong when I fight some guys. They don't expect this power to come from me, and I see that coming up. And I used to think that was the hardest thing I could do, like and then I like get into fighting and that's like, what? How is this happening? How am I tired? It's not even that they tapped me out. I just mentally got fatigued. Like they mentally and physically break you. before they actually start going for the submissions. If I fight someone, I'm not going to go for a submission while he's at 100%. I will mentally tire him out, affect his breathing indirectly, his circulation. And then when he's like, just kill me already. I'm so tired to fight. And then that's when you try to isolate the arm. That's where you go for the choke. When I do the challenges, people make a lot of mistakes. They think whatever worked in high school against their friends works. Like this headlock and this music. It doesn't work because you're not choking me out. Like you're just holding me. Now, if you're huge and I'm like weak, then that might work. But it's rare. That's actually a technique that sets up more submissions for us. If you see most of my fights, all of them do the same thing. Most of the guys, they think WWE መስላቸው, they come to tackle me and then they just expose their necks. And all I need is just one grip. And then I'm not just choking them out with my hands. I have my legs around their back and then I just start using my whole body. It feels like I'm just using my hands, but it's my whole body on their necks. And it doesn't, like if a woman can get to your neck in that manner, she'll make you pass out in a few seconds. But she needs to practice that. And what we're trying to do is create an environment where they feel safe, secure, and they just build their confidence in that intent. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of work. We do seminars where they come in and see, like I have 2 weeks from now, we have a seminar, workshop where women can come and defend themselves. But don't let that fool you. Like the fact that you attended that seminar doesn't make you good. We're just showing you that these are moves that you can use that will make you better if you practice them. But you have to come here and practice them. If there's anything, like people have Netflix accounts that they pay for, they have Spotify accounts and everything. The one thing you should invest in is your well-being. Like the well-being of your children. Like I have guys, this is the thing about foreigners, I have guys that will pay me thousands of dollars to fly their kids into Ethiopia and so that I can teach them jiu-jitsu for a month or 5 weeks. Because they see, like I remember like one of their dads fought me. We grappled for, like he's like 140 kilograms, like super huge. And we fought for a few days, like for a month or so, he was one of my students. And then a month later, he just called me up and I want my kids to learn jiu-jitsu. And I just flew them here. They're still training with us. And at this young age, like if I knew this when I was in high school and when I was younger, that would have been a game change. And as I can't imagine what they can be full-time martial artists if they want to, or they could just be confident young adults that are. Dave Chappelle has this saying, like, sometimes you gotta be a lion to comfortably, like, for like paraphrasing, to comfortably or to truly be the sheep that you really are. So like sometimes if you like stuff that are kind of wimpy and you're hiding it because you're afraid other people will bully you or something, you don't need to hide that when you're tough. Like I remember when I was younger, like my friends used to pay me for protection in high school sometimes. Like they used to like give me like 600 birr and it's like internet name thing. I don't even have to fight. I just tell them don't fight him, and they won't. And I was like in the glee club, like just singing with my but I was living a nerdy lifestyle. But nobody said anything to me. I was just living my own life because I know that no man in this school could do harm to me. And when you feel safe in that sense, you'll be free to be yourself. You don't feel the need to hide behind a false disguise of toughness. And I think that's what it will do for them. But I'll just say, like, try other martial arts and then try jiu-jitsu. And then you'll see which one you want to do for a very long time. I have nothing against striking sports, like Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, which I think they'll be effective in the sense, especially if you're a full-time fighter. But I don't think people can do them for a very long time without serious brain damages. Because you get punched in the head over and over again. I can hit you right now. And if it's you get concussed, you feel the effect of it, of that punch a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, because your brain slowly, deteriorates. I would rather have my joints hurt than my brain, because you see a lot of boxers now, ለምሳሌ Muay Thai fighters ምናምን ወጣት የነበራቸውን ቪዲዮ ካየሽ ከዛ ደግሞ when they grow, like when they age, like in their 40s ምናምን ሲገቡ አረፍተ ነገር መፍጠር አይችሉም. They can't form sentences. That's one of the reasons I stopped doing MMA. Like I saw guys like Nate Diaz and whatnot, like I'm like, what, that guy used to be so cool, and now like I can barely hear what he's saying. And I see that amongst, it's called CTE. It's an actual thing that happens. I'm not just hating on other martial arts. 6 months to a year of striking is really good so that you're tuned with movement and you know what to do, and you spar a little. But oftentimes ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ምንድን ነው የሚያደርጉት? ፓሪያስ መቱሻል. You don't spar, you've never been hit, and then you go into a street fight, you get hit and you get damaged. But do it so that you know that you're okay, but as a sport, something that you could do long term, forms of grappling also are even dangerous. Like wrestling, for instance, and judo, they are way more physically demanding than jiu-jitsu. The athletes in judo and wrestling are next level. Like it takes a lot of mental toughness. But jiu-jitsu is like, you can do it we do it in our pajamas. Like we're like, it's super relaxed. Like sometimes you don't even feel like a word. Like like with my coach, and we did wrestling and everything. We used to go to Kao, like it's still for the average person intense workout, but for us, because we did those sports, like we're just there to rest. It's just fun. It's not physically demanding because we've upgraded our bodies. But for a lot of people, even those grappling moves are dangerous because you're wrestling so on, your hand might get broken and whatnot. So people don't do them as often. But with jiu-jitsu, sometimes you can do it lazy. Sometimes you could do it. If a 70-year-old guy is doing it on a regular basis and is fighting 20-year-olds, everyone can do it. It'll be the best decision you ever made. Like you won't regret it.
Because like is there anything you want to add?
Oh yeah. I also wanted to promote our book, Bow Before No Man, which is out on Amazon. It's about the history of Ethiopian grapplers, but it's happening in the present day, and the struggles that they're going through, and like what we're trying to do to grow the sport, and people, the families that they've lost during the sport. Like for instance, one of the things that's actually funny is when I had my first fight in Nairobi, I flew there, I was having fun with my friends and everything, like I was taken care of. When my coach Yared went to his first fight in Nairobi, he had to go through like the border, the Makina, on a lorry, and like the driver took him halfway and he just dropped him off Mangale with some tribe, and the tribes were giving him, I think, lion's milk, I'm not sure, but after that another car came and then they just put him in the back of a pickup truck, like a Isuzu ነገር ነው, but the cover ተደርጓል and የሆነ ቀይ እርሾ ነገር ነው ያለበት, and then they go inside, it's dark and they're supposed to take them to Kenya through the desert ምናምን አድርገው, and there's also like in the middle of the night ገብተዋል, it's cold as hell, and then they see like 3 other eyeballs staring back at them. It's like, man, so አለ እንደ ያለ, and it's other Ethiopians like that were also trying to go to South Africa, like በቦርደር አድርገው, and that's their story, like that's what they had to do in order for us to get here, and now we're like the spoiled children. But that's amazing. It's been a great conversation.
ማለት the passion to go through all of that for your sport በጣም ገራሚ ነው እውነቱን ለመናገር.
I mean, when you do it, you'll see why.
ካልተሰበርኩ ነው.
When you do it, you're both going to do it.
We're going to try. Yeah, we're going to try. So, is there anything else?
Not.
Okay. So, Majama, I would like to say thank you, John. ስለመጣ በጣም አመሰግናለሁ.
Thank you for having me as well.
Representing jiu-jitsu as a whole. ጓደኞቼ ለዚህ አርት ፒስ ላስተዋወቃችሁኝ በአጠቃላይ ሁለታችሁም እናመሰግናለን. So, I'd like to thank Teraki for the space and platform, and the Teraki team. Bye.